Do, 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 do. We're live. We're here. Liam is just prepping his coffee. There we have Liam.
Hey, everybody.
How's our sound, Liam?
I can hear you if you can hear me.
I can. You sound fantastic. You're out in LA, right?
Still out in LA.
Okay. Well, just because I feel like I'm talking to an Oregon lumberjack.
Well, yes, I'm it's a little chilly here in LA today. And it's been rainy this week, which is good because the city has been on fire. So
Yeah,
rain is good.
that's cool. I just ran. I was trying to smoke a quick cigar before we got started, and
As you
it's
do.
cold and windy and rainy in good old Hoboken, New Jersey. And I come in my little
Birthplace of
my
one
my
Mr. Francis Albert Sinatra.
exactly. And believe me, you can't be in Hoboken for more than 5 minutes and not hear about Mr. Francis Albert Sinatra. I don't know
Uh,
what happened. My lights. I'm looking awfully pale,
you could
and
talk to Tom Dreesen, who was on KB's show today.
I yes, I saw that. It was all it was very much frank. And I wonder if comedians are more interested in him than his Frank Sinatra stories.
Who
Dreesen.
Dreesen?
Yeah.
Here's the thing. Dreesen is an interesting guy, um, and I don't ever want to be perceived as saying anything that takes away from him because he is like, look, he's been around forever. I don't know if I call him a legend, but I definitely would say he's someone who, if you know comedy, you know who Dreesen is.
Mm-hmm.
But his stories about the Rat Pack and all those old showbiz people, to me, are amazing, are fascinating. I don't know why people were chipping him in the chats today because, from what I caught, he told an amazing Sammy Davis Jr. story. Like, how many people do you know who worked with Sammy ever or even met the man, you know?
No, and know about him, right? Sammy, what did he say? On stage since 2 years old.
Have you ever seen there's footage of him and in his and his brothers and I think his father. They did an act together.
Uh,
And at that age, he was one of the best entertainers you've ever seen. Like, just
you
such a great dancer, such a great musician, such a great, singer, and really funny, like a really funny kid.
when I it's funny because when I grew up, I had an uncle that was about as sorry about that, about as racist as you could possibly imagine,
Hmm.
and hated everyone of any color other than Irish, and he loved Sammy Davis Jr. And it was just the strangest thing because you just wouldn't expect it.
I
And I
mean,
just remember him being a kid. I remember my father talking to me about my mouse is fucking up here. I remember my father talking to me, having to have my first talk about racism because of my uncle. And then one night on TV, Sammy's on, and my uncle's like, "No, you got to watch this. You got to watch this." I was very
yeah.
blown away by it.
You ever see that episode of All in the Family where,
With Sammy,
yeah, so Archie Bunker drives a cab. They had to basically Sammy asked to be on the show, and the only way that they could justify his world and Archie Bunker's working class Queens world combining was if they set up a storyline at the beginning of the season that Archie had to drive a cab part time to make ends meet, which is like just a very realistic story. And in the episode, Archie gives Sammy a ride to the airport. Sammy leaves his briefcase in the car, and Archie, basically arranges things so that Sammy has to come and wait in his house for Munson, who owned the car company, to bring the briefcase in. And the joke of the episode is Archie Bunker is America's racist dad or racist uncle, but he loves Sammy Davis Jr. And watching him kind of navigate his feelings about black people versus this one individual guy who he revered. It sounds like your uncle was the same exact guy.
I don't remember that, but that was my uncle. I mean, he really liked Sammy Davis Jr. and he loved all those Rat Pack guys and
Uh,
whatnot. I didn't appreciate them until I was an adult.
well, that's how I mean. I grew up in Queens, right? And so the guys I grew up around, it was like they didn't like rap. It was probably racist, but but they didn't like rap. Jazz was not cool to like. Classical music was for your grandparents, and the Rat Pack was like for the dads and the uncles. That was like we were into rock and especially hard rock and heavy metal and punk, and that was that was what you were allowed to like in my circles anyway. So when I was a kid, I started listening to the Rat Pack and Sinatra and Sammy, and started like just looking for their stuff, and I was like, holy shit, these guys really were the coolest guys in the world until about 1970, and then they became like the weird, outdated old fogies that me and my friends made fun of.
Right. And then you get older and you realize that they weren't so weird, they weren't so outdated, and
Mhm.
they were living their best lives. Used to love the stories about Dean Martin, um, being the drunk and the slug out on the streets, but in person and at night, but you never know what's true. But I love to think of Dean sitting in his hotel room in Vegas drinking a glass of milk. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you watch those old Dean Martin roasts now. I mean, when I was a kid, they would be on the air, and you'd be like, "Oh, look, Jack Benny. Who the fuck cares?"
Right.
And you look at it now, it's like Jack Benny, Lucille Ball, Sammy Davis Jr. Sometimes Sinatra would pop in if the honoree was good, and it was like, wow, what a just collection of a era in show business that's gone. I mean, it's just gone. You go to the Las Vegas now. It's like they say at the end of Casino. Just fucking. It's all corporate now. The Bellagio's still there. Caesars is still there. I
Well,
think
the
they.
Bellagio wasn't there then,
Yeah, it
right?
was the famous
When
fountain. That's where Shecky Green got drunk and drove a golf cart into the fountain and was banned from the Bellagio, which was the premier place to like do your lounge act in
but
Vegas.
hadn't they had all right, wait. But the Bellagio, the fountains of today are
Hmm.
not the Bellagio fountains of then, right? Like it's a much they redid it, didn't they?
I mean, I don't know. I just know that Bellagio's one of the classic casino hotels that was around during the 50s and 60s.
I'm old enough that my first visit to Las Vegas, I stayed at the Hacienda.
Okay, wow.
My second visit was, I think it was the Hacienda. My second visit was I stayed at the Frontier.
Hmm.
Um, and like all these places are gone. Like the Riviera was the end of the strip.
So downtown Vegas, I happen to like downtown Vegas a lot, and it's so the guy, Zappos, the shoe company.
Yeah, of course.
So the CEO of Zappos decided he was going to relocate his company to Las Vegas, and I mean, everybody in the company was going to go live in Las Vegas. And basically, what he did was he bought downtown and he started tearing everything down so he could put up new housing. So the last time I was downtown on Fremont Street was a couple of years ago, and all those old classic shitty motels with their neon signs and the classic like atomic age signs were still standing, but were behind fences and were about to be torn down. And it just felt like an entire it just felt like you were watching really the end of a true era in this country.
I I was the last time I think I was in downtown was for Hackamania,
Oh,
and
right, right, right. So you were there
that
more recently than I
it was a
was.
year ago.
Yeah, I was there 2 years ago.
Now everything is this things that you're talking about that were behind fences and standing have been knocked down.
Okay.
Um, the signs are gone. Fremont Street is a shell of what it was.
Hmm.
And it's a shell of what it was back in the 50s, but it's a shell of what it was back in like the 2000s. Um, and it's disgusting, but it's also like I used to like to go downtown because that's where I learned to gamble
Hmm.
at and
The
at
gold,
Binion's, and I
the golden
remember
nugget. Yeah.
the Binions, the story of Binions and Lonnie Binion being murdered, and the trial of the two defendants were probably one of the first that was broadcast. And it was super interesting. And now it's, it's all corporate, and you can't get a decent, like, used to play blackjack. I played blackjack in Binions. I learned how to play craps in Binions. And now it's like Disneyfied, and the numbers, the odds are bad. It's just not fun. And the street itself, was, all the, street performers and stuff. There were like, they have circles now. They're like Freedom Square circles.
Oh, wow.
Whatever, or I'm calling Freedom Square circles, but they're free speech circles.
Right.
Right. So you can perform, and it was really just boatloads of homeless. And it was hard to watch. It was guys with, like, fuck Biden signs, but they were like homeless guys, and just holding up signs like, "Oh, give me money." A lot of fat women in tiny little police outfits to try to, the whip you thing. And the creepiest part was, even at 2 and 3 in the morning, there were two little girls that were with their father, and they were singing. And it was like, I swear, two African American girls. And I just get this feeling that they just replaced them, right? Like, it's the two sisters, but because they're way too late and way too often. And but it was pretty gross, man. It was and there were a lot of chicks.
Well, you in Vegas? Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, I saw them when I went to Skankfest also.
Yeah.
These two little girls, two little black girls.
I mean, the thing is, right? So I love Las Vegas. I have friends that live there, that own businesses there. The downtown area's got some businesses I like. It's got a really good record store on 11th Street. It's got a really, really good coffee shop called Mothership, like near the record store. It reminds me, but I grew up in New York City in the 80s and the 90s, right? So for me, just the crowds, the signs, the energy, the kind of like shittiness of downtown, where you have like homeless people a block away from this weird zip line thing, that does not look safe at all. All of that to me feels like the New York I grew up in, like a little bit dangerous, a little bit edgy, and literally I almost got in a fist fight with a Chinese tourist 5 years ago, because I wouldn't get out of his way and he wouldn't get out of my way, and it just kind of like, he was drunk and it almost escalated. And what's interesting about that to me anyway is, I don't drink, I don't do drugs, I don't whore, I don't gamble, but I like the energy. I like my friends. I like hanging out in a tiki bar surrounded by performers, which is kind of like, reminds me a lot of the Lower East Side of the early to mid 90s. And I like the fact that I went to see John Cleese do his one-man show. Like, there's still all these performers that come through Vegas. I mean, dude, I have to at some point go see Wayne, Donka Shane Wayne, before he dies.
I know, right?
He's like the last man standing from that crew.
Yeah, he is. I grew up probably a few years before you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
but
definitely.
I'm also from Queens. All the cool people are from Queens. I went to high school on 2nd Street and 2nd Avenue. So it was the A train.
2nd Street and 2nd Avenue in Manhattan?
Yes, Catholic school.
Oh, that's okay, that's gone, yeah.
Yeah, it is gone. And it was the Bowery when I went. I mean, it was we would sit in class and you could watch the guys across the street picking out of the garbage. And I remember one of my first memories as a freshman in high school was watching a guy take an old chicken leg out of the garbage and eating what I would have thrown away.
And that guy's name is Joey C.
And that guy's name is Joey C.
I was going to say, now that guy's hosting a Dabbleverse podcast.
But I go there now, and it's like, it's unbelievable. But what was very cool about that school, and I went there for a specific reason, and this wasn't it, but it was right near Little Italy. And so there were a whole bunch of mobsters kids that went there. And it was hilarious because it was like, it was not the hardest school in the world to get into. It wasn't as hard as others, but it wasn't easy. But all these guys were in there and they just seemed so dumb and never did any work. And then you realize that, donating to the school meant way more than your education and whatnot. But it was wild because you would go to school with kids who lived in the projects. Alphabet City was Alphabet City.
Mm-hmm.
The Hells Angels was around the corner
On 3rd. Yep.
on 3rd.
They're gone now, by the way.
Like their
I know they moved up to like
was?
Westchester or something.
The
Or
funniest
like
was
big
after
club.
September 11th, they hung a gigantic flag on 3rd Street that hung so low that within 3 months it was completely in tatters. But nobody would tell the Hells Angels to take it down. So it was just like this shitty, ragged flag that hung there for years. Because like the Hells Angels were happy with it, and everyone else was just like, "Well,
What are you gonna do?"
Yeah,
Yeah, the feds got them. So back in the 90s, let's say how early.
Back when you guys were 40, yes.
I worked
Yes.
for an insurance company in Queens, and they specialized in recreational vehicle insurance. And the Hells Angels guys would all drive up, and the owner of this company would go out and meet them, and they all come in. And I got to tell you, scary, but they were the most respectful and nicest people I met, in that thing. And it's very funny because the guys who could no to me and in that situation,
And back then too, probably.
because the guys that could be assholes were them, and they weren't, and the people that shouldn't be assholes were. So
I used to hang out. So I hung out in that area starting. I mean, my friends and I would go sometimes when it was still a little bit scary. But by the time I was hanging out there, the artists had colonized it. And there was this really sweet period in the Lower East Side in the East Village where it was relatively safe. And there was a lot of art going on, a lot of little black box theaters. And then it got gentrified and the whole mood changed. And, just like people would get way too drunk on weekends. But there was a venue in the 2000s called the Bowery Poetry Club. And it was a lot of like poets and musicians and comedians and artists, and the Hells Angels would come because it was right around the corner. And it depended on what they were on. Like, I'm not saying those guys weren't nice. I'm saying like if someone had gotten a hold of something that they all shared, there was an edge to it that I did not enjoy. I never went to their parties. I once was walking by their headquarters, and one of them was so drunk he almost stumbled into me, and I was just like, fuck, what do you do? What do you do when the Hells Angel fucking drunkenly stumbles? He didn't, but he was telling his friends, he was focused on just telling his friends, like, all right, so at the party this weekend, we don't drink out of the beers that the girls are drinking out of. And I was like, whoa, okay.
So, yeah, I had a friend who I see him on like a Monday or Tuesday, and he's beat to shit, right? But the big thing I remember is his ear was all sliced up, and it had the stitches in the ear and whatnot. He had apparently gone to one of those Hells Angels parties, and he was walking by and grabbed a girl on her ass. And he just did like a squeeze, and
like you do.
It didn't turn. Yeah, classy guy. It didn't turn out well for him.
And I'm saying on a plane in 1954.
Yeah, and it was actually in Queens. God, I don't remember the place. It was one of the old bars in Queens, like on Vernon Boulevard. And it was like not a poker run, but it was some kind of charity run, like Toys for Tots maybe or something was a big thing with them every year.
Well, a lot of those guys are ex-military, so that makes a lot of sense.
What part of Queens, if I can ask?
Oh, I'm from Rego Park.
Rego Park, all right. But not quite Forest Hills?
Not quite. But the Hells Angels were founded by ex-Air Force guys. So they've always been like had like kind of like a tight connection with the military on top. And Toys for Tots is run by a Marines organization.
It's a Marines organization, yeah. You know what they say about the Air Force, right? It's like the Army, but for smart people.
I've heard that. I've also heard that the Marines are the men's division of the Navy.
Yeah, it's probably that's also
from my Marine friends. That's not
my brother would love that one.
That's also true. Hey man, I spent 4 years in the military, and I'll tell you, the Marines were they're a breed unto themselves. Go ahead, Dave. I'm sorry.
No. I don't know if anybody was watching MLC today, but literally, Johnny Carson had a hit on him from the mob because he stuck his hand up a lady's skirt, and that gentleman was telling it today on MLC, the story about how Frank Sinatra had to go to one of the five bosses of New York to like try to convince him to like take the hit off because he so
yeah, what's interesting about that story is it was Crazy Joe Gallo that he had to talk to, and nobody could talk to Crazy Joe Gallo.
He was like,
and basically it was like when he went for help, it was like, yeah, you're on your own there, Frank, or Johnny,
and then Gallo said, tell Johnny Carson he lives because of Frank Sinatra or whatever. Right. It's like, well, that's a cool fucking story, dude.
Dude, I mean, I used to walk by the Hells Angels headquarters quite a bit. I would make a point of not touching their wives or kids. Like, it's very, very easy not to grope the wife or girlfriend of like physically dangerous to you.
Yeah, I mean, just in general, just not having to grope somebody or touch somebody in general is always good, you know.
And by the way, I was around those guys sometimes when I was very, very drunk, and I still managed to not do that.
Yeah, but part of the thing, Dave, is you could, because they were out on the streets and because the way in New York is, you could accidentally touch someone, and you had to be aware of not
who
like
you're accidentally
you cannot bump into them like you would a normal person on the street. It was pretty wild.
I mean, were they that type of, like, that's what I'm saying, like if I were to just like be looking down and like being on my phone and actually walked into like a Mongol that, like, you know, here in Montebello, even if he had his patch on, he'd probably not do shit. Now, if I was looking down and I knocked his bike over,
well, dude, I was walking up Fifth Avenue in Manhattan in the 30s, and there's a Hells Angel just strolling up the street with his lady, and I'm not kidding you. There was a 5-foot radius circle around them.
Yeah,
that people did not enter.
I imagine. I mean,
But you reminded me. My friend used to live with a guy in another biker gang, and I went to her birthday party, and I was talking to this member of his MC. I should say motorcycle club, not gang, because they're not gangs, they're clubs. Right. And I just like, they was just telling me like, you know, like, yeah, you know, we hang out in the garage, and I was like, so what do you do in that garage? You just suck each other's dicks all day? And there was a beat where it's like, I should not have said that. And then he just started laughing really hard.
Yeah, thank God. You got one of those.
Yeah, you do.
You get like one of those, and that's it. They're like, all right, this guy's cool. He's cool. But then it turns into disrespect very quickly.
Oh yeah, no, I don't sit here and talk shit about fucking the Mongols. I'll tell you that.
Yeah. I mean, again, I'm not trying to bring this around to Kevin Brennan or anything, but I'm just reminded again. I was watching Burning Bridges, and Andrew Schultz was on, and Brendan gave Schultz some leeway with him making fun of his wife, but before it was done, Kevin was, all right, shut the fuck up about my wife already. It's like, yeah, you get a couple jokes in, but
no,
it's you know, you said Andrew Schultz, and I immediately thought of Bill Schultz. And
no, Andrew Schultz, yeah, no, that actual funny comedian,
right?
I don't know. You know, I never heard of Bill Schultz until I started following the Shitverse.
I don't think he's actually like I mean, he's like I'm pretty sure he has an album. I might even have 2 albums, but
Bill,
whatever. I believe so.
Wow.
Am I wrong about that?
I don't know. So the thing that I know about him was that he was
calls or something. The prank calls, right?
Oh, I don't know. I never heard that. He was on Fox News. like Red Eye or one of the shows. He was a regular,
Red Eye.
and the story is that they told him, look, you got to go to rehab, you got to lay
Yeah.
off the coke,
Yeah.
or you can't have your job, and he quit.
Yeah, you're right. He had that show, so I guess he wasn't really even a stand-up. Yeah, I'm
Right,
looking
I
right
think
now.
more of a writer, and he does have a
Cecil Says is what I was thinking. Cecil Says.
he has an
That's some
amazing
new shit.
he does have an amazing command of the English language. And it's interesting because when you watch him, even with Gino will say something and Schultz will interrupt and say, no, you don't have to say, I'm going to tell you something. Just tell me something.
Yeah.
It, it was a pretty wild interaction, but then,
It's like saying dumb broad. You're like, well, no, that's redundant. You don't use
right.
that.
Exactly, Dave. Exactly. But
I'm smart.
so yeah, bringing this back around to Brennan, I'm glad that I've got two guys from
See?
LA on
Detroit by Dark knew I would bring it back around.
as
Go
I
on.
get to head to Atlantic City. What do you? So just to get the history of this a little bit. Tukey and Melton said they were going to go to Atlantic City for the Super Bowl, and they started. It's not really a plan; it's a hangout. They're going to play some poker, things like that, and then Chad got in on it. Chad started with Kevin, or Kevin said something about it, and then they developed this idea of having a show.
Well, I mean, I think just to go back a little bit further, actually, there was, as you know, but I'm sure your audience knows, there was a big like gathering last year in Atlantic City at the Borgata for the Super Bowl.
Right.
And so that everyone had a really good time. A couple people got crazy. There was a lot of like content that came out of it. And as a result, people have been talking about going back to the Borgata since the Super Bowl ended, basically. So it's not just like a couple people were like, well, let's just go hang out. It was like it's something I think KB was probably interested in doing, for a while, just because I think he really does like to meet his fans and hang out and have an excuse to gamble and watch the sports without his family around.
All
Would-
right. I was there. I was there last year, so
Yeah, I mean, but I'm just saying, I'm giving some context to it where it's like,
see, I did not get the impression that
I
Kevin liked hanging out with his fans. The
I-
first one was in August of, so last year was 24. The first one was in August of 23
Mhm.
when Kevin was going to do. He was in. That was like it was Ski Mask and Stevie Lou and all these guys were going to do something, and then Kevin just wound up going, and I guess he got 15 or 20 people. I wasn't there. Talked to a couple of people who were there, and they said, Kevin was okay, but he wasn't hanging out, and that was when he was having the fight with Chad and Levy, and he had the breakup with Levy over the phone call to Chad. And last year, I didn't see him that much, but I guess he was hanging out in the B bar at the Borgata, but he didn't stay at the Borgata. He was staying someplace else.
I just want to put a little bit of context because I have been listening to Brennan for, at this point, 10 years. And so, and I met, from a fan's point of view, I've met a lot of comedians of different ages and temperaments. I personally, this is how I look at it, especially with Kevin Brennan. And a lot of comedians are like this, but Kevin Brennan is very much like this. I've never met Kevin, but I imagine him much like my lizard Babs. And like my lizard, if I go and try to touch my lizard, it might slap me. But if I grab my lizard and force affection onto it, it'll sit there and be affectionate with me.
I just want to say,
you know what I mean?
nobody grab Kevin and force affection on him.
No. Yeah. Nobody grab Kevin and force affection on him. But what I'm saying is, lizards don't go to you seeking affection or attention. But if you kind of force affection onto them, like you go nicely and say, hey, I'm Flimsy Greenberg or whatever, then I'm pretty sure from the stories that I've heard, not only from the fans, but from Kevin's podcasts in and around AC, that like the dude will sit there and talk to you. And then, like, yeah, he might talk shit to you or might talk shit about you later, but that's all part of the game and the fun of it. So that's all I got to say.
Well, Kevin's also of a generation of comics who are almost feral when it comes to socializing. So it's like, look at I've been going to the cellar and watching Dave Attell since I was 17. And then, like Attell, when I first started doing stand up, me and all my friends sounded just like Dave Attell. Like it was just like Dave Attell was the guy in New York City if you want to be a comic. I finally met Dave Attell. I was so nervous. And he could not have been less interested in meeting me or talking to me. And it wasn't personal, although it was very crushing at the time. It was very like hurt. I was very like disappointed at the time, but you know, I just what do you call it? I understood, I understood that like David Tell was just that way. Same with like Nick DiPaolo, man. Like I booked Nick DiPaolo for a couple of shows, and when you booked Nick for a couple of shows, like you pay him. If he's happy, he hangs out and drinks all night. And he sounded like one of Kevin's chatters. He just kept finding different ways to call me fat. And it was very, very, very funny. Like I just kept, my friends got upset. And I was just like, no, I mean, look, Nick's very funny and what he's saying is funny. Because it's just like was at that point one of the funniest dudes in stand up. Patrice O'Neill, Jim Norton, like just all those guys of Kevin's generation are just kind of like not slick or good at, the kind of like some of the social aspects of showbiz.
And they were brutal with each other.
Oh, that's why I never hung out at the cellar. Like I could have started hanging out at the cellar when I was young and things were happening for me. But other than like someone like Greg Giraldo or, Bonnie McFarlane, those people terrified me.
I could imagine that they would. And they're pretty intimidating.
I mean, but also like you're talking about the quickest, funniest people on earth,
Right.
Like Patrice O'Neill.
Now I know you're not talking about Rich Voss.
Dude, I'll tell you this. I've hung out with
him. I know.
He's super quick and
super wet and sprinkly.
And he's a very like nice, concerned guy.
Of course.
You approach him the right way.
Of course.
My buddy and I called my buddy who's like a real road comic, and I was like, I'm gonna go down and see Voss at the Comedy Store in La Jolla. And he was like, great, maybe I'll get a guest set. And so he did. Like, he texted Voss, he got a guest set. And so I showed up and I was like, hey, Rich, blah, 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 blah. And I was like, hey, by the way, thanks for getting me a guest spot on your show. And he was like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. I didn't realize you'd want one. I'm only allowed one per show. And I was like, whoa, relax. I was just I was just fucking busting your balls. Like,
no,
of
course.
Like you were just doing to me 30 seconds ago.
I'm so sorry. I didn't know that was going to be. I didn't know I was only going to be able to get one of them.
That was exactly it. It's just like, if I'd known you wanted a guest spot, maybe you could have done the early show.
By the way, fuck you. Okay, yeah, I love it. Go on.
By the way,
Okay,
the club
first time I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I know how people talk about Voss, and it's very funny to talk about him that way. The club was packed for him, and he killed. And so that's
the first time I met Rich Voss was at the Clambroth House in Hoboken, and I was living in Queens at the time, and I was doing open mic, and the guy who ran Stand Up New York, I think it's the one up on 80 something. I don't know if it's still there.
Coffee Breathman.
No, yeah, maybe.
That was the name everybody in the industry called him behind his back.
There was a guy named Tim Davis who.
Oh, Tim! I know Tim too. Yeah, so Tim was his general manager, and Carrie owned the club.
Right. So Tim calls me up, and they were like, and somebody else from the club, and it was like, you got to go do this show. You go to the Clambroth House, and he had no idea who was going to be there. And the opener was a guy who drove a cab and did this entire bit about driving around New York in a cab, but he had his dog with him. And the dude barely got a chuckle. and fuck you, Dave. And so in any event, barely got a chuckle. Then this woman went up before me who was from stand up. She barely got a chuckle. I got on stage and I was awful. I mean, it was really bad. There was a table in front of me, and my brother's a fireman, so this may allow me to say this. Firemen are the worst people in the world. They're obnoxious. They whatever. And I
They
made
never
a
got out of
joke.
the frat house.
I made a joke about
I like
why do firemen always wear something that identifies them as a fireman? It was like wherever they go, the T-shirt is always Engine 236. It's always something. And the guy got really pissed off at me. And then he was trying to make time with the girl at the table. And I go, there's a show going on. And he's like, what is this, a library? It was the first time I got heckled. I completely lost it, begged to get off stage. Anyway, Voss, I keep thinking it was Keith Robinson, but I don't think it was him.
Hey, man, what
But
is
a
this,
black guy
library?
from Philly who got up, did his thing. He was good. Voss got up, and Voss was unbelievable. I mean, he controlled that room. He was hilarious. It was like, I watched him and I'm like, wow, that's, it was amazing. And it was, crowd work now that I've learned, but as a new person and a novice and somebody trying to learn comedy, it was great, man. And he had such great stage presence. That's what I really liked about him. So
And what's interesting is all those guys basically mastered a craft of stand-up, which will not really make you money anymore.
right.
It's like you can't, like, unless you're Jim Gaffigan, you're just not making enough money on the road to support yourself.
I know. I mean,
The-
I'm even looking at Corolla, dude, and Corolla's got a full-time gig doing the podcast. I think he's even syndicated on some markets with the radio show. I'm not sure anymore, but motherfuckers, Chubbuck, Idaho, and Willacoochee, Georgia, to do his shows, and a lot of them, granted, they're theaters, and maybe they're even only half-packed theaters most of the time. You're still gonna make money, but like, yeah, I guess if you got that $6,000 every single weekend is pretty nice, I guess, no matter how much money you're making.
But by the way, I need to end that story by saying Voss didn't know who the fuck I was before or after and couldn't have given a shit about me the entire time I was there. It was it was great. He talked to the other comic, the other guy who was being paid, but the rest of us, he wanted nothing to do with anybody.
Nope. Good. Yeah, there's the different, like that's kind of like how Marin was to the open micers at the Comedy Store. Like Rogan was like super nice. He'd come over and he'd shake the hands and be like, whether he saw you or didn't see you, just be like, "Okay, keep it trying," blah blah blah, and be super. And then Bobby would come and be like super like, fucking look at these losers, blah 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 blah. Don't hang out with them. Don't talk to them. But funny in a playful way. The worst ones are like guys like the ones that make you really feel like shit are like the ones like Mark Maron or something like that just like don't even give you the time of day.
Well, I'll just say on Voss's behalf, you made his job 100 times harder.
Right. I'm not arguing.
I wouldn't talk to you either after the show.
I'm not saying that he was mean. I'm not saying that he was rude. He wasn't. He was very nice. But you could just tell in his mind, it was like, these people are here for a week.
Right.
I'm not investing anything. I'm not going to invest any of myself in them.
It's more than that. There's certain people where you see them on stage and they bomb and you're like, okay, that guy's got something. And I'll check in 5 years and see how they are. Sometimes you see someone eat a dick, turn the audience against the show, make everyone unhappy. Then you have to go on and do a ton of crowd work. And you're like, I'm never seeing this person in my career or life again. So, yeah, I'm just known like any breath used to talk to them is wasted breath.
Exactly. That was my point, Liam, without making me sound like such a piece of shit. But all right, I got it.
Being a piece of shit is just, he sized you up. He's been in the game forever, and he was like, "Yeah, I need to talk to this guy." Yeah,
pass.
Yeah,
Nah, you're fine. You're fine, Buckman.
it was a fun time. I'm all right.
This is what's gonna happen, dude. When you become a big fucking podcaster, bro, and we're #1 on the comedy charts for the most super chatted podcast in the United States, then you're gonna be like, "Look at me now, bitch."
Yeah,
Right?
that's not going to happen. I started doing this about 6 months ago, and I probably have 5 years before I'm, hyper salivating and spitting all over myself.
Mhm.
All right, two things real quick. First of all, Liam did say in chat about Rich Voss being Leo Gunn says he's a former crackhead. And while I agree with Liam in saying recovering, it's been, I think at this point, it's been long enough to where you can just call him a former crackhead because it's been 40 years.
You know, man, he is one bad night away from his bottom.
Oh, fuck me, dude. God damn it, dude. But also, yeah, we need to let's get into the fucking topic du jour, please. I mean,
Okay, but I just want to start by saying
care.
I'm going to do something very unpopular on this show, which is I'm probably going to be defending Chad.
That's fine.
I think that's what I was trying to say. Oh my
fine.
God.
I mean, Dr. Chow thinks it's Ray's fault, which I'm willing to test.
That's very
I'm willing to entertain.
Yeah, Dr. Chow thinks the LA fires are Ray's fault.
I watched
Hey now.
I watched the Ray DeVito show last night, and Dr. Chow. I never see Dr. Chow express emotion. He seemed pretty happy last night, and he was keeping it on brand by just bringing it around to Ray as much as possible.
Yeah, that seemed to be.
What was he happy about?
How Ray got the show canceled.
Dr. Chow is an interesting guy, and I don't think he supports too many people in the Dabbleverse.
Oh, it's fun.
And
Though, dude.
I know Dr. Chow
wants Buckman to do more shows. What are you talking about?
No, I mean, look at man, the guy has discovered so many lol cows in the Dabbleverse. I gotta respect his dedication to it. But
I don't really know much about him other than I remember back in my beginnings of the Dabbleverse, he was paying guys to do interviews like Bob Levy and other people with
it's smart.
Mir.
It's the way you do it.
But it didn't go anywhere. You have
to pay people who are famous. Like Bob Levy's not famous. He's not going to get you the views you want.
And he was good with money. And then I watched it again, and they had one of their regulars was David Scarica, which was the original Addicted to Profits. Do you remember?
Wait, so there are generations of Addicted to Profits?
Well, I don't know if there's another Addicted to Profits. I've heard there were more, but he was the actual Addicted to Profits. In the Dabbleverse and on the internet, there's probably 17 Liams, right?
There have been. I've been cracking down on that. So that's all I will say about that. But I've been doing a pretty good job about getting rid of other Liams.
Yeah, like for example, Puddle of AIDS. He super chatted into BYB yesterday. Is that the original Puddle of AIDS from Opie and Anthony? We don't know. Well, we like to think it is. So
it's hard. It's hard to know. All right. So my view in this is about Chad is that Chad never did the work that was involved. That he had an idea for a show and managed to get it up on Eventbrite and did very little after that. And I know that watching him on MLC when he was asked questions, he would, every time Kevin would ask him a question, he would be like, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. And I'm really not buying this, the trolls getting the show canceled.
I will say this. I have been producing shows since I was 22. And I produced big shows. I produced a concert film, which also, by the way, involves producing a live show on top of a film. And I did that successfully. And I've done big theaters. I had a residency at a rock club for a couple of years. The Bell House in Brooklyn. And I say all that just to say, like, everything that Chad was up against yesterday was very familiar to me. Like, just the week of is when, even if you are the most prepared person with everything, like all the T's crossed and all the I's dotted, there's just going to be shit that comes up where, like, the venue's like, oh, hey, even though we signed an agreement, I know they didn't sign an agreement, but I've had a situation where it's like, yeah, we signed an agreement, but we didn't realize that that agreement included this thing, and we can't accommodate that. And then you have to then scramble last minute to either find a new venue or find a way that, like, you can accommodate their accommodation without making everybody unhappy. I mean, it's just like,
But there were no T's crossed and no I's dotted. This was all half-ass.
no, it was a handshake agreement. I mean, and that's pretty common in producing stuff. You know, it's like, if especially a venue that's under construction where the guy's got a million other things to think about and he's not, like, necessarily focused on your event.
They never talked. He never talked to the guy. The only contact was through texting.
Right, but it's like texting. I mean, the thing is, like, with texting, you also get a written record of what everyone's agreed to. So I don't think texting in lieu of calling someone is wrong. I think sometimes when these disagreements come up before you go live on your podcast, saying the event's over, you call the venue and you have a frank conversation and you say, okay, well, this is what we were expecting and this is what you're expecting, and how can we find a way to make everyone happy?
Right. Where I would find texting advantageous is being able to say, these are the things that I need, or these are the things that I want, and you've got them in writing.
Mm-hmm.
But this doesn't seem like any of this happened. It seemed like the ticket sales went up. There was no thought into it. It's $20 for 60 tickets. It's $1,200. What are you going to do with that? You had the problem with last year. Mosca got involved in it, and he was involved in it last year.
Right, but here's the thing: Chad is not like a producer that way.
Exactly.
Right. But here's the thing: so you're holding him up to a standard. This was like a good learning experience for him, because at the end of the day, this is an event that really is just like a bonus on top of everybody coming and meeting each other and hanging out.
I disagree, because there are, from what I've been hearing, there are people that were dying to see KB, really wanted to see this, really thought there was going to be a kill Kevin, made hotel reservations, bought plane tickets, and it may be not a lot of people, but it's, at $1,000 a pop, it's a lot of, 4 or 5 people is $4,000 or $5,000.
Dude, if you're going to the Borgata on Super Bowl weekend to see one show and then turn around and go home, and that show is part of a bigger weekend that's planned around this podcast that everyone likes. I don't believe that happened. I believe maybe 1 or 2 people did, but it's like, for the most part, Chad was like, let me put on this event that is in addition to this other weekend of fun that we're all going to have. And what he did not do is he did not ask the venue, do you have a dedicated showroom that is separate from the bar? That is just rule number 1 about throwing a good comedy event.
But he's been at the venue.
The venue just is reopening, so I don't know.
No, but I went myself 2 weeks ago and took pictures
right
of the venue from the outside, looking in the windows that you could see what work they were doing. And there is no room, Liam. It's too small. The whole place can only hold 80 people, 85 people, including staff.
What I saw was a lot of chairs and tables that could be moved around to accommodate an event.
But they can't, because the guy makes his money from the deal is they make money on food.
Right. So
food and alcohol.
Right.
And if you take the table away, there's no seats, because all the tables are high tops. All the chairs are high tops.
Not all the chairs. I looked at the seating arrangement. There were low seats and tables as well.
To the left.
Mm-hmm.
To the left, which last year were occupied by all of the performers. and people associated with the performers.
I saw a back room that you could use to hold the performer.
There is no back room.
I saw it.
It looked no, you didn't see.
I did see it. No,
you
no, I
think you
saw it.
you think you saw it.
I looked at the pictures that Flimsy tweeted at KB, so I know exactly what I saw.
Right. I went looking that it's not a back room. What it is it's a wall. To the left are the bathrooms, and to the right is the kitchen.
Right.
There is no back room. That's the issue. Like, we went in there last year and walked in and thought, oh man, it must be in another room. No, it's right in the front in the bar. The stage is a little platformish thing over to the left. The middle area that you're looking in with the pictures that Flimsy took. That's the space where people walk in and out to the bathroom, where the servers come in. So you can't put seats, you can't put chairs there. All the chairs to the right are elevated. But look, there is no back room. I mean, I argue that all day.
It doesn't matter what we're discussing, because here's the thing: people can still sit in high tops chairs, and if they absolutely cannot, if that's a deal breaker, Atlantic City probably has a couple of places where you can rent folding chairs pretty cheaply.
And I don't argue that, but you've had 6 weeks to do this, and you're finding out this stuff 3 days before the event. I've
done it. I've done it in venues where I was under the assumption
all of these things were pointed out.
Chad has, where a venue has told me, yes, we can accommodate 60 people. And then a few days before, I've talked to them, and they were like, well, I mean, you're bringing chairs, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, well, let me take care of that. And then you just take care of it.
Based upon what Chad said, his only real conversation with them was he could sell 60 tickets. He didn't take care of the door, none of the stuff that you would normally think of. It'd be basic stuff with hosting an event was taken care of. And then on top of that, it was supposed to be the Kill Kevin thing, right?
So what do you think is involved in basic stuff to host an event?
Well, at this particular place, I would have known that you have a capacity, so you have a capacity of 60. You saw what they did last year, right? Where they just let people in. Those are questions I would have asked in the beginning. And I would have also said, hey, how are we going to set up so people can actually see us perform?
I mean, so here's the thing, right? It's like, from what I heard Chad say, it sounded like he thought he had ironed all this out with the venue this year. First of all, I would not have gone to the same venue. That's me. But second of all, if you're going to tell me that a venue that can hold 80 wouldn't be happy with 60 audience plus performers all drinking and eating, I just can't believe it. I can't believe that they wouldn't hold the door for 2 hours to let this event happen without also trying to extort $4,000 additional dollars out of Chad.
Yeah, my understanding was they were not trying to extort an additional $4,000. What they wanted was they needed to make $4,000 on a Saturday night.
Right. And so
if they'd guaranteed $4,000 to the venue, that would have been fine, but that's different than paying $4,000. I guess what I'm trying to say is there were many ways to negotiate this, many ways to work it out, and it was just half-ass.
I mean, look, if the venue's like, we need a guarantee of $4,000 or you can't have a show, that's a conversation you have 6 weeks ago with the producer.
Exactly.
You don't come to them the week of and say, well, this is the deal. You can't have your event the way you want it if we can't get guaranteed $4,000.
Right, but if you don't explain to them what you're trying to do, what your event is, this place, from what I've seen, hosts has like open mics. It'll have a small band, things like that. It's not a place for this. So from the get-go, it wasn't going to work. And everybody pointed this out. It's not like he wasn't aware of any of this. Go ahead, Dave.
But even that, like, the fact that, first of all, I think
you're on the wrong mic.
Oh, that's possible. No, I'm on the correct mic. Okay, I feel like the reason there's no reason for Kevin to react the way that he is. Sure, maybe that part of it's the WWF part where is he really mad and yada yada. He still thinks that the show's gonna happen as of today. But like I think that you're talking the difference of 10 people. Like 60 sold out tickets and
Right.
then 10 even if you have 10 employees, that means you're left with 10 people that can fit into the place, and then it has to get cut off from the fire marshal anyway. It's 80-person maximum. So it's like we're talking about a matter of 10 people here. Fuck the point of all that. My point is that like he you basically you should have under deliver under what did they say?
Under promise,
Under promise and over deliver. He turned a meet and greet, something that could have been perfect as a meet and greet. $20 meet and greet. Let's meet that thing. If something happens, it happens. That's it. Great. That's it. But then he's like, this starts with the lanyards, and he's now putting more and more pressure on the event that he can't deliver because he's trying to be cool and play producer, stand back and be like, Win by Two will handle the podcast thing. The Ken Mosca will handle the door, and I can just sit back, collect my $1,200. Because to him, it's just $1,200. It's not 60 people's weekends getting ruined. You know what I mean? So like if you would just said we're gonna have a meet and greet, it's $20. Come 60 people. If some people come in and they don't have a lanyard, well then they're not obligated to ever meet Kevin, okay, or Chad, shake their hands and take a picture. So it's very easy to you know.
Here's the other thing: is your average audience, like person off the street, if they walk into a crowded place and Kill Kevin's happening loudly, they're not staying. They're not going to stick around.
I know.
So what you say this is what I would have personally done. And again, I'm not here to pile on Chad. I'm not here to gloat about what happened. I'm going to say, me personally, as someone who has run into this a few times now, I would have said, okay, great. You know what? Would love to have some extra audience members come in. They want to stand in the back of the room. I just want to guarantee that I can have my 60 seats that are marked reserved, that nobody but ticket holders can sit in. And if anyone wants to like sit in the additional 10 to 20 seats that are in the back of the room, I am totally cool with that. And then I would have had Ken Mosca. I would have maybe paid a Jersey comedian $20, which I've done before, or, you know, like someone I knew in the area who could just kind of like take care of ushering people to seats that have tickets. That's what I would have done with this event. But also I got the feeling from KB that like, just from hearing him talk about it the last couple of weeks, this was all a little bigger than what he wants to do in Atlantic City in the first place.
Correct.
Yeah.
Like,
and again with the chat.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say okay, and then that's why I feel like Kevin finally blew up in the end here, because now he's getting clowned on by Melton and Tukey and stuff like that because it's an MLC live event,
right?
You know, and what it's and Chad has basically promised all these things. We're gonna have chat. We're gonna have Ray and Buschetti. We're gonna do a minute from each person. We're gonna have cameras, super chats on my channel. First, he wanted to do it on MLC's channel, like presumably just like being, we'll do it on your channel and we'll get super chats and stuff like that. Like,
but Dave,
do you know the logistics of that?
I mean, you have to understand this thing has Kevin's name on it, and
right.
he's in a world where the people who hate him the most are coming to see him fail.
Exactly, and again, it's not even the randoms.
And whether he wants to admit it or not, he's got his biggest supporters coming, and he's got his biggest trolls coming. Yeah. And so, you know, whether or not he wants to admit it, it's fucking. It could potentially be very embarrassing to him.
Right, 100%. But he let it go on. But he let it. He should have pulled the plug on it a long time ago.
No, because it makes Chad look like more of an
limited
idiot.
it, or gotten involved in it. But he just let it. You know, it sounds like he just let Chad do what Chad was going to do until yesterday. When he said, "Oh, I got to talk to the club owner."
I mean, also, you know, he has been saying he doesn't want to be involved in it, and he barely wants to show up. So this is like a. But here's the thing: I suggested something in the chat, and Chad told me to go fuck myself, which is fair. Which is like suites are not expensive at the Borgata, even on Super Bowl weekend. You can get a smoking suite. You can do the show in the smoking suite. You can get a bartender and make money selling drinks, and you can have a really good time.
Yeah.
And you can do it all for the same amount of money it would cost you ultimately to do Kill Kevin. Maybe a few $100 extra if you're paying Bichetti. But like you can
Yeah.
Yeah,
definitely.
I don't get how did Bichetti get into this?
That's what I'm saying. There's all these things being added extra, and if you listen to the inception of all this, like I did, I listened to every episode of MLC since then, and I'm telling you, like originally, KB was like, "Yeah, I'll just do a show in my room or something. Maybe invite some people over," and then it turned into. But he even thought, because he knows how Chad is, he even thought, maybe I'll get a conference room at the Borgata. It's like $5,000, and then we'll
Wow.
just do the event there. And he even considered doing that. And then he pawned it off to Chad. All right, Chad, see if you whatever the fuck you can do. He basically did the same thing he did last year in AC, which is ask Gino Bisconti to bring a karaoke fucking machine. Okay? And then he charged people for the show. And then again, it didn't matter that they got charged because people who were there didn't pay, or people that weren't there did pay. Like, it didn't matter. And the same thing that's gonna happen at this show. Fine. And Kevin's not worried about 10 randoms coming in. He's talking about 10 people that didn't pay to get in that like will now want to troll him and ruin the show. And I get that, but I'm saying that's something easy that can be handled. Now, Kevin did overreact a little bit. We could have still had the show and the meet and greet and all that. There wouldn't have been a Kill Kevin. All that would have been canceled. But nobody would, and if you wanted a refund, you get your refund back. But, they'll throw it off like that. Like, oh, sorry. Because KB kind of knew, I felt like, that's what Chad was gunning for. Like, let's get everybody there. We'll have a good time. If the show happens, it happens. But if it doesn't happen ultimately and I lose a few refunds, I'm okay with that. And I honestly think that's what Chad's mentality was, the whole thing. And because he, again, once they're there and they've, already kind of started, he feels like, oh, he can win them over. They'll be fine.
The crazy thing is there's at least one shitty comedy club in Atlantic City that I know of that would probably be thrilled to have an event with 60 people showing up, possibly
Yes.
more.
Right.
Like,
Do they serve food? I mean, those
the
people are
food is not
soliciting.
I know nobody's going to believe me when I say this, but the food's not the important thing. The important thing is,
that.
can people get drunk? That's the number one issue with this event is like, can people get a drunk? And they can at a comedy club.
Yes.
It's an event where it's just them.
No, I know that. But it has to be, but also how close to the Borgata. You want people driving, you want people Uber, like, you want to minimize that as much as possible, obviously. And I don't know the distance of all that stuff. But again,
it's about 1.5 miles. And it's also in the area is not so great. And last year there was a parking lot across the street, and this year they've blocked off the parking lots. So you can't park, you can't park anywhere.
Well,
look, these are side issues. My thing is, from the very beginning, I think what happened was Chad's eyes were bigger than his stomach, and he made this a much bigger deal than it needed to be and should have been. Kevin didn't want to really have anything to do with it, and in the end, Kevin is the one that gets most embarrassed by this. I mean, Chad gets shit on no matter what Chad does.
Chad almost
I don't even think
today. I actually legit felt bad for him today.
No, because I don't even think Kevin looks bad at this. Well, he looks bad. He looks bad in the sense that he got burned by Chad again. And believe me, as long as I'm Kevin's number 2, that will never happen again. All right, right, Kevin? You listening, buddy?
Are you a consigliere? Dave, you're not a wartime consigliere.
All right, sir. But. Because Kevin was hands off this one. He let Chad run everything, and Chad will go on to Ray DeVito show like, we're gonna get lanyards. We're gonna get lanyards and raise an idiot. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I decided to wear the same lanyard that I would have at the show.
Dude, not for nothing. Ray is an idiot. I mean, that's nothing to do with what happened in AC.
It's you and KB get a pass at shitting on Ray, but for everybody else, it's hacky to make fun of him at this point. All right.
No, not at all, because he keeps reinventing himself and finding new ways to be an idiot.
All right.
I have to, what do you call it? Sit out this part.
But wait, so Shmuel, I know you're friends with him, but like I see like Deb calling you an ESO kind of guy, right?
No, not Deb. Rob called me that.
Rob called you an ESO. I thought it was Deb. I thought it was Deb.
No, please. Deb's
That's
my
such-
buddy.
Rob Saul has the bottom of the barrel insults. Rob Saul is literally the I'm rubber, you're glue guy. Whatever you say to him, he says right back to you to a T, literally.
Dude, Rob
It's
Saul
so
is more,
bad.
in my opinion, he's more of a when one finger points, three fingers point back guy. Like when he says shit like that, it makes me really wonder what's going on.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
he was slamming Deb, and it was on my show that she had slammed Rob, and he was like, yeah, and that whatever his name is, that ESO looking guy, he's an ESO. You know, it's all Rob has.
Oh, okay. I guess I heard him quote Deb, and I assumed he was telling the truth.
Well, what do you mean that's all he has? That assumes that you are one of those by saying he's got that. Like
I'm sorry.
calling you old is he's got that because you're fucking old.
Yeah,
and ugly and stupid. Yes, you're all
right. All those
But you're
things,
not-
all the
but you're not
things
an
that are
ESO.
true, he could have used, but no, he chose the one
Right.
The
thing.
thing that's
It's all
not
he's
true,
got.
right?
It's his usual
Okay.
insult.
But I mean,
Okay.
to get back on topic a little bit, you know, with all due respect to Chow, I don't think it's fair to blame Ray for this one. But it was weird to see him in Chad's chat today, gloating a little bit.
Was that the real Ray though?
Is
You can't
anybody the
confirm.
real anybody anymore? Like
I don't know.
I don't fucking know, man.
I don't know.
I
if
don't.
that's the real
Yeah, I don't
Ray.
see Ray. I don't see Ray
But
doing
maybe.
it.
I just-
maybe. But
I
I
mean,
might have been talking to Ray on the phone at the same time that show was on. But I can't.
What's the fake Ray? I trust Isaac Walmart.
Does Ray have a credit card? I mean,
Yeah.
to make the super chats.
Yes, Ray has a credit card. Yeah.
But before, he wasn't making super chats. He was in the poor chat. But
Well,
to say to one thing about the Boschetti thing and the credit cards, I just want to say I want to go on the record and saying that yes, Boschetti is one of the biggest flakes ever, and I get it. And you know, as somebody who lives with his family and in some ways resembles a halfway house, not saying that's where Boschetti lives, but like it can get hectic. Okay, but I feel bad for him because he canceled on AC originally because he's asking KB if he can use a credit card and all that stuff. And I don't think the dude has a credit card, so he made up a lie about losing his credit card and all that. So I felt kind of bad there.
my assumption was someone in his life said, you don't want to put your own debit card down for expenses. Just make sure that like someone who's throwing this event puts their card down for incidentals. And you know what you can do is, if you, like Borgo's booking the room, he can put the card down for sure if he wants to. But it's like you just go to the hotel, and if the clerk won't do it, you go to the manager who will do it, and you say, "I'm putting this card down for incidentals. Can you please limit it so that the resident of the room isn't ordering room service, isn't ordering from the mini bar or whatever, because I don't want that going on my credit card." And then you go and you say to Mike, "Look, I understand you need a per diem. So what I'll do is you're paying you $100. I'll give you $100 cash before the event, and I'll give you the rest of the money after the event." And
Yeah,
you.
but there's something. Mike, look, Mike has been doing this for a really long time, and again, it's just one of those other things where it could have. You're absolutely right. Where Mike probably should have said, "Hey, I don't want to get stuck paying the bill."
Mhm.
And so I'm going to need the money up front, or I'm going to need somebody to put down a card for incidentals, and and agree to not spend money.
Problem is
or limit it.
you're doing business with Mike. You're not doing business with an agent. You're not doing a business with concerned family member. And so when you do business with Mike, you have to understand that certain things will come up last minute that he didn't think to ask before when you were like negotiating. Because Mike is Mike, and we all know Mike. We've all seen Mike. Mike's a sweet guy. I like Mike a lot. He can be really funny, but also he's not a guy like you can really do business with in a way that you do business with normal people. I mean, not normal, but like
I understand.
yeah. He's not the elephant man. I'm just saying, like,
No, right.
I get it. I just don't know that what do you call it? I don't know that I don't know that we needed to know all of that, and I don't know that it was it was almost like blaming Bichetti for the problems, and Bichetti wasn't the cause, had nothing to do with anything, and I don't know. It really felt like KB was covering for Chad, and Chad just fucked this thing up.
I don't know. It seemed like KB kind of even seemed a little bit under the weather this week, and was kind of like, if I don't go, it's fine. Because he even said yesterday, which I thought was a little bit of a tell, because a little bit of a David tell, a little bit of a tell, which was that he goes, I could still go. I got Mike's room. I could still go. He's not, you know what I mean? That word, I could still go, means like, you, as of right this second, you're not going. It seemed like. So I don't know. If
I think KB sees a potentially embarrassing disaster, and he's just deflecting to make sure that the blame doesn't land on him. And
right, but
I don't blame him.
Look, I don't blame him for deflecting, but put the blame where the blame is.
sure,
And
the general.
why are we dragging Bichetti through the mud when the reality is this was all Chad? And KB bears responsibility for having let it get this far. He didn't want to get involved. He didn't want to get involved, but he had to know, right? It's his name. It's his reputation that's going to get tarnished in this.
Yeah, it was a little fucked up to drag Bichetti through the mud. That's kind of what you get. You kind of sign into that though when you sign up with KB. Like there's nothing personal. It's all gonna get exposed. Other than your social security number and maybe my last name might stay safe, but for the most part, it's all gonna get exposed in DMs or whatever. So Mike's got to know that. I understand that they're friends and it might be different for them. Sure, whatever. So I'm not trying to pretend like I'm in KB's inner circle, and it's almost worse that it's that with Mike Bichetti, but I don't know.
Yeah, I don't.
But nobody blames this on Kevin. Unfortunately, I don't. None of the fans do. He visibly gave the shit. Now the general goes down with the ship. The general is the one that gets fired for it. So as a fan, you either decide I'm never watching Kevin Brennan again because of how poorly Chad almost threw this event. That's fine. So nobody's going to do that. Exactly. So again, the fans know that this was all in Chad's hands. 10 people might blame Kevin and be like, you shouldn't have let Chad be in control of our fun weekend. Rollers maybe, might have that private discussion. Maybe Borgo's having that private discussion with them. So, but you can't, this is Chad's fault. That's it. In my opinion, plain and simple.
Yeah, I don't know. I definitely think KB bears some responsibility. And look, it's not going to be like, this is not going to be marked as the turning point in KB's podcasting career, but it doesn't help, right? The numbers have been down. The viewership have been down, tiring people out. Does that work? Does that help?
Well, I mean, you noticed he had a different kind of guest on today.
Right.
Unfortunately, it happened right in the middle of nobody in his audience wanting to talk about anything but AC. I mean, the thing is, it's been a very long year for everybody. Plus, it's been a long year in the Dabbleverse. Plus, people just don't have the money they used to. I don't think this you can lay all of that on Kevin Brennan's doorstep.
No, I'm not laying it on Kevin Brennan's doorstep, but the way this seemed to develop to me was Melton and Tukey are showing up, right? They're not planning anything, whatever. Chad, for whatever reason, felt like it was stolen from KB, like it was KB's original idea. So KB should do something. Or KB decided to do something. But I think it started as basically a meet and greet. Let's all get together and hang out. And I think we wouldn't have had the venue problems. I don't think all of these problems would have happened. But Ray wanted to do the Kill Kevin thing, and then they were going to do a podcast, and it got involved. I'm getting videos from people showing me, which I have, showing me their 1-minute sets that they were preparing for this. And now they're disappointed that it's not happening. So I don't know. I think you got a lot of people involved. I also think that there were a lot of people like me that thought it was never going to happen, that it was going to be a disaster. And now we've got it. So there's a little bit of gloating.
I think it's good that Tukey and Melton are going to this event. And I'll tell you what, I like the show a lot. KB didn't care. This is Mr. Blue Sky. KB didn't care if it was a shit show or not until he torpedoed it on purpose, asking all these questions people told him to ask a month ago in super chats. So he got to yell and scream like he loves to do. I don't think that's true. I think Ken Mosca came to KB with some concerns about what the venue owner was saying. And I think it was the first time he really paid attention to this event that has his name on it.
Well, it's possible, but definitely there were super chats asking these questions a month or more ago. And Kevin was just poo-pooing them. He was getting a little nervous.
How do you differentiate the legitimately concerned super chats from the trolls, though?
Well, because of the people who were sending the super chats, including myself. I'm not a regular super chatter to him. And, I was there last year. I had specific concerns. I mean, they were legit. Chad was just not denying that they didn't exist, just denying that they were a problem. Whenever when you would ask a question like, this place doesn't have a stage, what are you going to do for a stage? Chad's response was, it'll be fine. This place doesn't really have seating. What are you going to do? It'll be fine. I just think Chad tried to use a term that you're familiar with, Liam, take an easier, softer way, and it jumped up and bit him.
But, and with all due respect, I just want to point out that, I'm not here claiming that, Atlantic City has ever been like a Kevin Brennan staple event or anything. No, last year, Kevin went down because Melton and Tukey and then we're going down to meet John and stuff like that. It was a Stuttering John thing last year. So this year, one could say that Chad, by way of Kevin Brennan, tried to capitalize on that again. So,
Wait, Dave, can I interrupt for 1 second? You might want to bring Carlos Danger's chat up on the screen.
Oh, there he is.
Sorry, Dave. I just wanted to be on top of that.
Wow. That talk about grifting.
I didn't. Wait, Carlos. I did send it to you.
Talk about grifting.
But here's the thing I want to say before Carlos comes on and derails it with his anger. I think it would be a good thing maybe if KB came, if these people who KB doesn't like, and by the way, these are people who have no love for me. So I'm not saying I'm not saying this as a fan of anyone, but I'm saying as a fan of the show, KB needs to keep growing his audience. And one way to do it is to maybe get back in a place where he occasionally has Carl on his show and Carl highlights when the best that KB was doing financially, and he's talked about this, was a year ago. And that's when he and Carl were like guests on each other's shows all the time. And, WATP was covering his show. And it's like he was kind of just getting out there in the Dabbleverse and, trading with, horse trading with Melton and with.
Yes. Exactly. You think these people are going there because of us? These people are going there to meet super chatters and steal each other's super chatters and they're fucking high rollers.
They're also fans of the show. I mean,
yeah, I get it, but I'm just saying that they're all and Melton and Kevin Brennan will have breakfast, just like they did last year.
Yeah.
Together, and they'll take a picture, and Kevin will be smiling, and then they go back on and say, "You were having fun, and now I was." And okay, so it's just like when my friend, who's a jewelry salesman here in LA, goes, "Oh, you're going to Vegas this weekend? What do you taking a bunch of stuff to sell?" It's like, no, we don't go to Vegas to sell. We go to Vegas to buy. They're not coming to AC. They're having an event in AC where it's the gambling capital of the East Coast to go give away to the fans. No. They're going for the Bentleys and the Borgos and the Leo Guns and those motherfuckers. Schmooze hands with Shmuel Buckman.
If Kevin really wants to grow his show,
that's the only reason.
Make more money, the best thing he could do, and he'll never do it because I got to say, whatever you want to say about Kevin Brennan, in my experience, the man is 100% legit and does not lie or fuck around. But if I were him, I would suck it up. I would make a surprise appearance at Hackamania and just get the fans excited about his show. He'll never do it, but that's
now I know I'm going to be Kevin Brennan's number 2 after that type of rhetoric, sir.
Oh no, dude! I'm on that show. The funny thing about his fans and how much what they think of me is, I'm on that show once every 3 weeks. Like, it's not.
I know.
I'm never going to be his number 2. But what I'm saying is, like, just from a purely business standpoint, he's hermetically sealing his show off from a big segment of an audience that likes him.
The way we like it, sir.
Yeah.
It's the way we like it.
Guys like me don't watch him because he's just bitter, paranoid, and it's funny for a while. But after a while, it just gets like, how much can you shit on Ray DeVito? And then, his show has become, it's the Kevin and Chad show. And Chad, I'm sorry, he's just not that interesting. And then the whole thing with what's her name, Felicia, and the Pat Dixon stuff. It's just too much. It's like he's funnier than that. He's got more than that. And this is just like, he's just like acting out his, let me get back at people fantasies. And he can do it on air, and he can make super chats doing it.
Well, I'm going to make a point, which is when a character or sketch really catches fire on SNL and becomes popular, Lorne Michaels has it on once every 4 weeks. And the reason is he does not want to burn his audience out on something that works. And I feel like the thing about the MLC is when someone really works for the show, they're on a lot all of a sudden. And then the audience just gets burnt out on them quickly and turns on them. I think Felicia's good on the show. I like Felicia. I like Chad on the show. I think he's a good broadcaster, which is like sometimes Kevin needs a good broadcasting partner to keep the show moving a little bit. But it's like when you're doing a show, when you're doing 7 shows a week, and you have someone on 3 or 4 times in a week, audience just doesn't want it. I'm sorry. Anyway, Carlos Danger is out here to tell me.
But I will say this.
This isn't BYB.
Bring him back. I love Carlos. I'm going to shut up and let Carlos talk.
He's got to come up. He's got the length.
You think Shmuel
that was him. I wouldn't do that.
Come on, get out of here.
Funny.
Come on.
I wouldn't do that. He's our Husey.
Yeah. What? Ray
Look,
DeVito.
man, I don't know. It feels like Kevin's just doing shows just for super chats. Now,
I got to tell you, man, I was on the show last Saturday. I challenged the audience to give enough money in a super chat to kick me off. I was off in 10 minutes. And then Kevin had to explain to his audience that I was in on the joke. Yeah. And that floored me because up until that point, I was like, well, we're all on the same page. That's very funny to do that and just jump off the show when someone gives $300. But instead, Kevin had to explain to Roy Wills that, like, no, I fucking know what's going on. And so I wonder if, like, maybe the reason a lot of people in the Dabbleverse don't like me now is because I was assuming they were getting what I was putting out there.
They don't, Liam, they don't like you. I don't know what it is. I don't think they appreciate your comedy or your sense of humor.
We love you.
But you garner, it's funny because you probably garner equal numbers of like and hate, but there's a value in being disliked by these people.
Yeah, 1 star and a 5-star, baby.
my role model for doing Dabbleverse shows is Gilbert Gottfried on Howard Stern.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like Gilbert would say whatever he wanted, whatever popped into his head, because it was always funny whether or not you liked what he was saying. I don't make racist. I don't do black voices, but I do. But I've studied Gilbert on Howard. It's my favorite way to be on a show.
Well, yeah, I mean, like, it's like I don't like. I personally, I enjoy you and your conversation, whatever. Okay, but like, for example, Adam Bush, I can't stand Adam Bush on with Carl because the show is very lukewarm, and Adam Bush is very monotone, but when he's on, I like him when he's on with Stuttering John because of how uncomfortable his calmness and his monotoneness. Same thing with you, Liam. And sort of the same dynamic with Kevin is similar. Kevin's not as fucking retarded as Stuttering John, so it's simple it's difficult for Stuttering John to be like, dude, like he gets very when you're out matching his energy and his anger, he gets very frustrated with that, and so for that I like it. But I think,
Where's Carlos?
I don't know.
He
Maybe
just
comes
wanted to
back,
come
maybe
in
not.
and make it. He didn't think that he was going to be able to come on tonight.
Oh, okay.
So, but he has the link. I didn't boot him. He pulled the Husey.
Okay.
Let's not suck each other's dicks anymore.
I'm doing a
man.
podcast with Husey on Sunday.
Yay.
All right.
I agreed
cool.
to it and then found out it was 7 a.m.
Oh, is this the Australia show or
No,
you're doing
it's-
Husey?
I'm doing Husey. It's gonna be me. Well, I'll do a plug. Fuck it. Christian Blatt and Lucy Tightbox, and we're gonna be talking about David Lynch. And I said yes, and then read the part of the email that said it was 7 a.m. LA time. But I'll be there.
You'll be like John. You'll be coming back from the gym at that time.
No, I go to the gym at 11:30 at night.
So I want to move on from this, but I want to say we're going to have a good Atlantic City's going to happen. I expect something with KB to pop up.
Well, let's talk about it a little bit. Didn't you try to get a hold of Blade? What's going on with that? Let's get the show going.
No, I just as I was getting to do it, just as I was getting to go to get a hold of Blade, I didn't have his info. And when I got his info, that was when they were like, it's all back on.
Right.
And so I just ignored it. I didn't get a chance to do anything. And then I had to actually work this afternoon. So by the time I got back in, everything had changed.
Right. Yeah. I mean, to say things were changing in real time here, it was a wild day today. Wild day.
Yeah. It's a great day for people who don't have a job.
Well, I work from home, thank God.
Yeah, I do too. Yeah.
Yeah.
No,
well, I mean, so yeah, Buckman, what give us some of the what are the rumblings going on in AC now? I'm sure you're in some text threads or in conversations with people. Like, you're supposed to meet up with, Deb and Dan are going to be there at KB.
Well, Dan's not going to be there. Deb's going to be there meeting up with KB.
Okay.
Mommy has been vocal. Our buddy
Mommy's
Ray is
around.
going to be there. Teamster Tim will be there. Of course, Tukey and Melton will be there.
So are you
Bentley's
taking
going to be
equipment?
there. There's
Are
a
you
whole bunch of people that are going to be there. This was look, for me, this was a sideshow, right? Like the KB event. And in the beginning, I had no interest in it. And then I thought, oh, this might be fun. If Kevin had gotten involved and they actually did like a Kill Tony knockoff, or if Kevin even just did a podcast, it would be a lot of fun. But I just couldn't see it happening. Knowing the venue was the first thing, and then knowing Chad was the second thing. And then you're like, and it just started getting out of hand. And I think Melton was the one that said, isn't it? He goes, this show seems to have an unlimited budget, because it was like every idea was like, yeah, we're going to do that. Yeah, we're going to do that. So everybody's still going to have a great time. It would have been fun to go to that. And what usually happened with these things when I've gone to them, somebody here mentioned it earlier, they tend to shit on each other. Everybody complains, but at the events, everybody gets along.
Well, yeah, because they have to be face to face.
Well, there's a lot of laughing, and it's also a lot of it is characters, right? Like people know that they're playing a role. I mean, who's going to watch Melton if Melton comes on and says, "Yeah, that Kevin's a really great guy and I enjoy his company." It's not going to work that way.
Yeah,
right?
look at Joey C. I saw him in person. I call him a stupid fucking fat fuck directly to his name. What did he do? He walked away from me, right? Right,
Dude,
Joe? You remember that?
There's half a dozen chatters who I really like. I would love to meet them. I wish I could go to
They're
his.
fun.
Beloved Chatter seems like a good guy. Borgo. I'd love to meet Mr. Rapey Ray. I would. I mean,
I
but
know. Just have fun and chill like a green room hang. And you're not wrong when you say it would essentially be the alt skank fest, the alt to the alt comedy festival, almost like a pod fest. If KB were to show up, it would be all of our favorite people all in one place. It would be very fun, And I don't see that happening, but I would be all for it. Those are my favorite type of events. I don't even go for the content creators. I go to go meet up with the motherfuckers, the idiots in chat. I'm sure I've done coke with half of them already. So
when I was a kid, I used to go to these conventions, like fan conventions, and it was just so that you could meet people, buy some merch and talk to creators a little bit, and then talk to fellow fans, and just kind of hang out all day around like-minded people, which you don't get to do a lot.
yeah, like the Baimon Sci-Fi Con. And that's another thing about the difference between podcasts and radio too. Like I was a huge Frosty and Heidi and Frank fan, and for the most part, these radio shows, a lot of them are local, and so you hear local ads and you hear local, and then you find out that they're gonna have shows at local bars, and it's everybody who listens is in like a very small radius, so they all go out. Dude, when I used to go to these Frosty, Heidi and Frank events, or the Kevin and Bean events, or Kellerman and Marcellus Wiley. Like, it's the most fun because, you're just going and meeting the other listeners and it's like the commonality of the folk. And it's even better with this type of thing because the point of the art that we're listening to and enjoying is the shit talking, the being funny on the feet kind of a thing. Like, it's the conversation part of it. It's like we're all having little mini podcasts. Now, I'm listening to this. I realize how gay it sounds, but it is true. I am a fan.
For me, it's also been funny to go and meet people who are vicious when they're chatting, just vicious. And you meet them in person and they're looking down, they're kicking their little foot. They're like nervous.
I can't afford a beer.
Well, they can afford a beer, but they're
joking.
they're keyboard warriors. They're super tough behind the keyboard, but in person they're not. And then they turn out to be really nice people. And you get to hang out, and it's just that it's a hang.
And then
you're
realize
meeting people with an interest that you share. Yes. And it's also the Borgata, so I get to bring my wife, and she goes to the pool and the spa, and
it's that same guy who was shit talking to you, where you were like, "No, this motherfucker." And then after the event, he's still doing the same shit talking, but for you, you're able to play along with him more. You're able to like give it back and forth and fucking and volley it because you're not so triggered because you don't think that the person hates you. That's why with me, anytime I see a negative comment, any single time I see a negative comment, I just assume the person's trying to be funny. If they make fun of my retarded brother, sure. My bald head, fine. I'm a cokehead. I live with my parents, fine. All that is true. But like, I just assume that they're trying to be funny. And I don't even second guess it. I just assume they like me. It makes life so much easier.
I'm going to also say this might be a little controversial. There are people in this, not just Kevin's universe, but the WATP and Melton and all that, where the fans directly pay for them, like directly give them money, and that pays for them to live a certain standard of life. And I am one of those people that feels like when you do have that kind of direct relationship with your fans, even an indirect relationship, like even if you're the star of a TV show or movie, you owe it to them every once in a while to show up to something and just give a little bit back. And I mean, like a movie star, it's dangerous for them to hang out at the Borgata with their fans all weekend, but they go to conventions. They're very gracious. They take pictures. They give autographs. And I feel like, especially in the Dabbleverse, where it's like, these are people. I mean, Christ, Mr. Rapey Ray pays at least €1,500 a month just to raise podcast.
It's
And
I
it's
know.
like,
insane. Yeah.
and like Ray owes it to him to put off his
Well, a
show in
year. I think a
Lancaster.
year.
Well, I mean, it's like 15,000 or something crazy like that. And it's like, I feel like in that situation, Ray owes it to him to blow off his show in Lancaster. And in fact, to know now that he's going to be in AC on this weekend and to go and talk to Borgo, talk to whoever shows up, you know?
Yeah, make it right for your super chatters. I
I mean,
know that's true.
but
It's
they like,
grassroots.
like, Ray, like the thing is, like, Ray is not 100% that guy when you talk to him. Like Ray is definitely, believe it or not, Ray is doing a little bit of an exaggerated character when he's on these shows, except for when he gets drunk and high. That's really the real Ray. But you know, when he's talking about fucking what kind of predatory bird he would be, it's not something Ray talks about in real life. That's just like Ray trying to fill time, and it's a little bit of a work, and it's anyway. I'm just saying,
It's a little bit of a work, but he gets into it, right? Like he'll look it up, he'll look up what it is, and then he gives his thoughts on it. And I have to sit there and go, how does this guy's brain work?
The thing is,
Like-
because he's trying to do IRL streaming in a podcast format in 1 hour because he doesn't want to take the time to do a podcast in a podcast format. That's some of the issue too. Like, do the IRL streaming part, which is the thing we all want you to do. Sit there, cook the eggs, do the laundry, talk about what the fuck kind of bird you are,
Mhm.
and then collect the super chats. Go buy that pink shirt or buy a Pokemon cards and fucking take a gimbal, walk around, just like everybody does these days. Lots of people would love it. But don't try to make an IRL. Don't try to do an IRL stream as a podcast.
And by the way, Ray is someone who goes around and trashes me to comics I know in New York. So I'm not here to defend Ray. I'm just here to
Right.
explain, like, Ray's a guy who almost literally owes whatever standard of living he has right now to the fans.
Yeah,
And,
and
you know, I
that's
mean, so do all these hosts. And
But Ray doesn't make. I mean, does he make any money in the Dabbleverse? He doesn't really. He doesn't seem to.
but like to Liam's point though, that I wouldn't say something to somebody. I wouldn't come on here and say something that I wouldn't say to somebody's face. 100% true. So like that is a little disingenuous and sad to me that Ray comes on here and he's like, I don't want to trash Liam or I don't want to trash Dave. There's a nice day. But then, going to other comics and trashing them and I don't really know. And so that I don't like if that's true. And I tend to believe you, but like, that's pretty fucked up.
Oh, I mean, I found clips of Ray talking about that, like saying that he does that. That's not even a question anymore. But to me, but to my point, like, and to answer your question, Shmuel, it's not just money, right? Like he stays with Timster Tim.
Right.
He gets concert tickets. He gets money to go to the concerts and buy shirts. I mean, there's a certain standard of life that Ray has, and it's not something that like you or I would aspire to, except for the free concert tickets and expensive clothes and expensive
Are
sneakers.
those coming from the Dabbleverse though, or are they coming from his comedian friends?
No, that's 100% Gustav and Borgo and fucking dude. I was on a stream with Malware and Ray, and Malware was showing Ray these $200 sneakers he's going to send him. I mean, it was infuriating.
I was on the stream with them when they were doing that.
You were on that stream, right?
Did he send them?
I don't know yet, but I mean, I will say, to your point about the character a little bit, and to your credit as well, like the idea that you guys would, like either one of you guys would go and do MLC for any number of time and then show up on Povo the Clown Show for 3 hours and let those fucking idiots berate the both of you the way they do, and then just kind of like, oh no, and then Ray's sitting there just taking it. I'm like, this is a, he loves it. He likes this. This is fun for him. And I mean, you too. I mean, I get it. So, and I like Povo's show and all those guys. I'm talking shit, but it's true. I'm listening. I'm like, if I was Liam, I would not be here. Sorry.
Dude, I mean, here's the thing. I'm here.
Oh,
All
I
the
know.
same people are in this chat berating me. I mean, it's like, it's the price of being able to say, by the way, guys, I just streamed an old podcast I did with Gilbert Gottfried and Frank Santopadre on my YouTube channel, which you can go to at watchliam.com. You can skip right to 33 minutes and 30 seconds for the interview. You can skip the rest of the storytelling and stuff. And tomorrow I'll be putting up another old interview, and I'm going to be doing that every weekday at noon. And I'm already 20% of the way towards being monetized on my channel after a week. And that I understand is partly because whatever people want to say about me in the Dabbleverse, a percentage of them come and support me because they like what I do. And the day that I get monetized and I start making money doing the kind of podcasts I want to do, I will be very, very grateful. And as soon as I make enough money to fly to Atlantic City, I will definitely be there. And that's that's a promise. And if Atlantic City's not happening, or if they don't want me there anymore, there will be other opportunities to meet the fans. And that's just,
come to Vegas. But Liam, you do have a long history in comedy and
yeah.
a giant period of success, right? In comedy and
I would
movie
say
film and
I don't.
so
I get
but
it.
people nobody knows that, I don't think. They're
I don't want them to
here.
know. Dude, I don't want. No offense. I don't want people in my business in the Dabbleverse. It's not interesting to me to. I know I get accused of throwing my credits around. I only do that when Ray tells me I've never done anything, and he says that a lot, and people believe him. And it's
Well, I mean, you did tell us you produced a concert film and you did this and you did that earlier. It had nothing to do with Ray.
I was making a point that, like, I've learned a thing or two about producing, and I'm not just talking out of my ass or criticizing Chad out of my ass. I've actually legitimately run into every issue he's running into right now.
Yeah.
Um,
There's no need to get into people's personal lives and stuff like that. Just,
I mean, but for me,
No,
it's like. But here's the thing, and I really want to make this point. I haven't been on TV in over 10 years. I'm now in film school, and I'm extremely grateful for it. But it's not because I did everything right in my career leading up to this that I have to learn a new skill. It's because, and thank God, the skill I'm learning is something I've wanted to do since I was a kid. So I feel very grateful for it. But it's like, what people don't know is that I'm supporting myself by writing comedy and producing comedy. And I'm a little bit of a downturn right now because that's the way the business is. But I have not had a legit job in 14 years, and that's because I've just worked out how to pay my bills with comedy, and it's not something that I really feel the need to go on MLC and say, because a lot of people who go on MLC are scratching to survive with stand up and trying to figure out how to make it work. People say I'm crazy to respect Chad, but like the fact that he's figured out how to make this podcasting thing into a full-time job, and he does the work to make his show a certain way, and he does jingles, and he does segments, and he does regular shows outside of his regular show. I think that that's something that I think maybe more people in this podcast world could learn something from.
Well, look, it feels to me that if it weren't for KB, we wouldn't know who Chad was. He has major ups and downs in this. He's currently going through a redemption arc. Let's see what happens after Atlantic City. But he's not a good guy, and that's that's a big part of this in the Dabbleverse.
Yeah, I was hoping. It's been a while since he's been arrested. It's been, I was hoping he'd be on the straight and narrow. The idea, like, I've been arrested 4 times. Now, I've spent maybe a collective 18, 20 days in county jail before, right? The 18 or 20 days in county is like not that bad. The worst part is the processing. And that's enough for me to, that's enough to keep me out of jail for the past 10 years plus for anything. But the fact that Chad's been arrested and processed 30 plus times in his life is wild, man. And oh boy.
Well, Yeah, and I'm not even talking about. I'm talking about like
I know that's part of
proudly talking about how he got Stuttering John's show canceled,
it.
whether he did or not, but being proud of it. And then the next week, lamenting that his Patreon channel was taken down. I mean, come on, it's like or even this thing today where he's complaining about people contacted the club, they did this. This is what Chad does. Chad's done this to other people. So it's just, look, I felt like Chad's chickens came home to roost, and I sort of got some joy out of that.
Yeah, let this be a reflection period for Chad. Let him understand that he potentially has ruined the weekends of at least 60 people, and then millions of fans across the world, millions of MLFC fans across the world. So that's fine. I'm okay with the way it turned out. Chad will get a little slack from me now going forward. He'll be lampooned enough by everybody else that I won't need to do anything or talk about him or anything. So I'm happy with that.
But Shmuel, right? So like the idea is everyone seems to have gotten a refund who paid for a ticket.
I haven't.
Chad, oh really? Well, but I mean, the point is like Chad's not going to profit from this. And so the question is, and you were talking about sobriety earlier, the question is when a guy says like, hey, I'm not showing up drunk on streams anymore, I'm making this amount of money, I put like that kind of like Kumia country stuff business behind me. At what point do you as a person have to say, well, I guess maybe it's time to stop judging him and, give him the benefit of the doubt that maybe he wants to really like start over.
Right, but if you want to start over, then why are you trying to get other people's shows canceled?
Yeah,
right.
And if you want to start over, yeah.
Why are you doing? It's like the guy who gets, the guy who goes to AA and he gets sober, but he's robbing banks during the day and going to meetings at night, but he's sober.
Yeah, and also too with Chad, fuck, I lost my thought. Sorry.
No, keep going.
Yeah,
I lost it. I don't remember.
Look, I didn't come on here to shit on Chad. I'm happy. I'm happy. I know I did, but I'm happy that look. I want Chad. I want him to be successful. I want everybody to be successful. But there really is a part of me that like this is part of the reason why I got mad at Gino for the show last year. When Gino showed up drunk to Tennessee Beer Hall and pissed away a show, it was like he was disrespecting the fans. He was disrespecting comedy. And there's a certain amount of that with Chad that bothers me. It's like he sucks you in, gets you excited. He's going to do things. He's going to make a change. And then he always disappoints.
Well, I mean, on the other hand, Chad, we don't have to punish Chad because then John turned around and got his Patreon taken down. It's like Gino got his whole YouTube channel taken down, right? It's like if people want to keep doing the same behavior, they will eventually face the consequences of low bottom behavior. And it seems like Chad is at least acknowledging his past to an extent. And maybe it's a work. Maybe he's like fucking around and, lying about it. But I don't see him blackout drunk on the streams anymore. He hasn't been arrested in a while. And so I'm willing to say, like, for as much as Chad is willing and able to do, he seems to actually be doing some work on himself to improve himself.
Well, I hope you're correct. I think, if he has stopped drinking and getting blasted, that's great. But the other behavior doesn't seem to have changed. The going after people.
But I mean, does he go after you?
Yes.
Okay, well then that's something you need to deal with.
Yes. So,
and I mean,
well, but I expect it. It's like it doesn't make. I'm not going to go. Look, I do go after him. I will try to troll him, although he's got me blocked on everything, including YouTube. I'm not even allowed to super chat. And I don't say, I'm not one of these guys that says nasty shit in the rude and crude stuff. I ask I was asking like about the Tennessee Beer Hall, I was asking questions. And the thing was, the questions, maybe they were pointed and maybe he got upset about them, but it's part of it. You're going to that's the deal is I'm used to getting insulted. I'm used to getting people trashing me all the time. It's fine.
You know what KB did today and yesterday by pretty much putting the X-Nay on the show is he probably saved Chad's YouTube channel from certain disaster or certain peril. I mean, I don't know this Win by Two guy at all. I've watched some of his podcasts here and there. They're fine. Seems like a fine show, fine dude, fine whatever. I don't know if he was trying to troll Chad. I don't know. I don't know if he originally wanted to try and troll KB, but then he I'll deal. I'll settle with Chad. I don't know, but I think something was the foot.
You think so?
I think something was the foot.
Well, I am not. I wouldn't report somebody. That's not my thing. I don't want to.
Not the reporting, but maybe showing a dick or.
No, I get you, but I'm just saying for me.
Or keylogging his password.
I'm not going to be doing. That's the kind of stuff that I see Chad doing that really gets me. And
Chad does keylogging?
No. The reporting of people, getting other people to report people,
now
filing strikes, things like that. It's
not for nothing. The whole Dabbleverse is a universe of snitching.
Exactly. So that's why, like, I can't look. I've already accused Chad of basically stealing valor on that, like getting Stuttering John's shows canceled. He basically was like ISIS in the sense that like he just claimed a random attack that like for himself. That's my personal belief. I don't know if he did that shit or not. But so I can't now be a hypocrite and say, that he went and actually strike. Now he's done that to channels in the past. But if we want to talk about present day Chad, that's reformed Chad, I'll give him I'll give him a pass on that one. Reformed Chad. Old piece of shit Chad has done that. This one I don't think was him because I know the people who actually sent some of the Carl emails and stuff like that. So I don't want to, so.
Wait, what Carl emails?
Well, I may or may not know the person or people who sent the emails as Carl to the people that cared about it at the comedy show.
Wait, what are you talking? I honestly don't know.
There was when Stuttering John was supposed to do the benefit for the police officers union.
Oh
and
yeah.
The Patreon got taken down before that. I don't know who did that. I don't know who got the Patreon taken down. I know the people or persons that did the Carl Heberger fake email, the Carl Heberger01 at gmail.com or Heberger Carl01 at gmail.com. So I think those people are the ones that actually got their the shit like John's shit canceled. But Chad went and took he took responsibility of it. He claimed it. So let him fucking claim it like an idiot. But so that's the only thing I'm saying.
Yeah,
but he's done it in the past.
No, I get it. And I mean, look, like I said, this is a world of snitches, and also, like I said, there are things I just don't promote publicly here because I don't want my employers to have to deal with some of the shit that people deal with here.
Right. We all understand it, but that's particularly like with Cardiff. Chad tried to get the guy to lose his job. He tried doxing him. He did all of those things. And, Cardiff points them out and lays them out. And when presented last week, I guess it was Chad and Cardiff were on the show. And Brennan asked Cardiff what they were, and everything Cardiff said, Kevin poo-pooed. Oh, yeah, no. So, it was a time. It was a different time. It was a different place.
I mean, look. Here's the thing. I didn't see that. And the reason I didn't see it is I'm just I don't know, man. There's just a point where it's like it's a lot of people tearing each other down. It's not funny or interesting to me after a while. So I like going on MLC. I have been saying I would come on your show, so I'm here. But I used to say yes to everybody. Now I say no to almost everybody.
Right.
Because what I found is that look, I got into a fight with Ray over him doxing my mom, and then someone who may actually be in this chat right now then doxed my mom's address, where my mom lived, and her picture, and put it all up in a super chats, like chatting as her, right?
Mm.
And so to me, it's like, well, that's the point where this stops being fun and starts being something that is more trouble than it's worth. Right. So, like, to me,
Doesn't I'm sorry. I
No,
just
no,
wanted to
go.
ask. Let me ask a question about MLC. But isn't MLC the most vicious of all? Kevin really goes for the throat with people.
Kevin has also,
And
as far as I remember, he put up 2 phone numbers on Twitter last week. So I mean,
I didn't see that either. I'm
right,
really
he was trying to get the IR. And the thing is, like if you have these fans,
probably still up.
trolls that you've got, like, Kevin last year was trying to get the IRS to go after Bob and saying that Bob had a hidden account. And
did.
it's like I get it, but I don't, I get what he's trying to do, but the reality is then, the fans in this thing just they think he's giving them orders.
They're tripling down, and that happens a lot too. And it's like my experience with MLC is none of that. And I'm actually about to kind of withdraw from Twitter entirely. So I don't see those tweets anymore. After the Sarah Silverman tweet, I had my own thoughts about that. I didn't love it. Like him doxing his old comedy friends. And there's also a point where you're like, well, when does he get mad at me and it's my turn, and suddenly I get a bunch of like weird calls in the middle of the night?
But it doesn't that seem to happen? Like everybody who was a friend seems to become an enemy at some point.
I've avoided it. I've been on this show for almost a year, and and I'm, me, I don't skirt around the issues, and I don't like fake nice when I don't want to, when I don't think something's right. So, and I've been on shows that he hates. So I feel like I've had a blessed year with Kevin, and I've really, here's the other thing, man. With MLC, it's my favorite chat. Like, I go there sometimes and just sit and read the chats instead of doing my work, because I like following everybody. I like knowing what everyone's doing with their lives. I like the jokes and the ripping each other apart. When I'm on Kevin's show, when I'm on your show right now, or when I'm on Povo's Town, like Clown Town, I honestly don't give a shit about the fat jokes. Like, to me, it's like, it's nothing I haven't heard when I was 12 or 15 or 18. I don't have a lot of I have a lot of concern about my health, but I don't have a lot. I mean, the only thing that like really hurts is when people go after me being unsuccessful or me going to film school. And that's the thing, like, it doesn't even trigger me. It's just like, well, that's not true, but okay, like. So when I'm on MLC and Kevin is like yelling at me, I don't take it personally. And maybe it's because like when I was 19 years old, I was hanging out with 100 Kevin Brennans in stand-up comedy, and I kind of know where it's coming from, and I know that like they're mostly not serious. Or like when I was talking about Nick DiPaolo or Patrice O'Neill, both those guys have fucking torn me a new asshole. Greg Giraldo, like those guys were 10 times worse than Kevin Brennan, in my opinion. And I survived. I didn't like it, but it's like part of that generation of comedy. So to me, when I go on MLC, I understand it's not, but I think you're right. I think like people see that and they escalate, not understanding where Kevin may be coming from some of the time.
Right. I think some of it, it is meant to be humorous, and it just gets it absolutely just carried away.
But
For some reason, I think Kevin respects you.
As well he should. I'm an accomplished comedian.
You're a smart guy, so you don't take the bait.
And we hate the same people, which helps. I mean, it really helps.
Kevin kind of hates everybody, right?
Except for Chad.
dude, I like Carl, which I say on his show, and he hates that I say it. But I like Carl's show, I should say. But otherwise, like we see eye to eye on a lot of things also. And again, I respect the fact that like Kevin doesn't bullshit, but the fucking Bob Levy thing, which I just learned about, that is out of pocket. That is like, what the fuck is going on?
Yeah, and the things he's called Bob's wife, and Kevin has an interesting set of rules, which is, if your wife pops up on your podcast, then she's fair game, and if she doesn't, then you're not allowed to do anything. You can talk all the shit you want. He can talk all the shit he wants about somebody's wife, but talk about his, and it's, I'm going to report you for criminal behavior. Look, I don't know. I just don't feel like his reactions to things are appropriate, and I think he does go a little overboard.
You're saying Kevin gets angry and reacts disproportionately?
I am. I know it's a shock.
That's why we need to siphon off the losers that can't handle it, hermetically seal the fucking case, and keep this bubble nice and tight.
Look, man, it's part of what makes Kevin funny. It sucks when it just goes on too long.
The Kevin Dome. We need the Brennan
Shuley
Dome.
stuff when he was with Shuley with the money. Show me and every fucking day, Shuley and his mom. I don't care.
I want to bring up one thing very quickly. Jim Stencil retweeted something from Lev Fur yesterday. And Lev Fur is this up-and-coming comic. He's in his late 20s at this point. Pretty good, very good for his age, pretty well known. Excuse me. But he, yesterday, sends out a tweet. He's from New York guy. He's a Jew. And he's like, he's been kind of like one of these guys that for the past 4 years has been a little wishy-washy on the whole. Am I a liberal? Am I a right wing? Whatever. Playing a middle of the road moderate, like most people do and should be. I'm not saying don't be that. But now today or yesterday he goes on and says, "Oh, I think we've hit a turning point in the comedy community where we have to start calling out grifters and blah 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 blah." Going after and make some of these guys have to understand that just because they're comics doesn't mean we shouldn't be going after them. Now, 4 years ago, that was a hot take. 2 years ago, that was a good take. In 2025, that take is a grifting take. Okay? So yeah, Trump's in office now. Now it's cool and it's okay to go back at people and call out your things. The issue with the comic stuff is I understand. Rogan and the Rogan Sphere and the Verse has built a community of the high tide raises all boats. And it's like a business. It's like somebody made the point the other day in chat. It's like Michelin tires going after Arby's. It's like you guys are businesses. You guys are sort of industries, but you're not really competing. And it's like, why as a comic would you go after another comic's like money or financial system? Because you're in a sense taking food off their table. And it's like there's no reason why my fans can't also be your fans, and that's been kind of like an old school thing for a while. And for a while, comics have kind of sort of agreed that let's do shows and I jump on your pod and you jump on mine and yada yada. And I like all that, but Kevin Brennan has never been that, and the fact that now people want him to be something different is cringy almost at this point. Now, personally, I'll say one thing. I don't mind the whole 1099 thing, going after Bobby Kelly, show me the 1099s and look at the views and he's not making any money. I like that stuff. One thing I don't like, and I'll admit, is with Ray, it's like Ray was going to get a gig at Hackmania. Sure, is it a spite gig? These are all things you have to figure out. Kevin Brennan did give him a lot of money. He was going to make $1,000. But to go after the kid's $1,000, and I know he's 50 years old, it's almost like, when Trump and Biden were talking, and it's like, we agreed not to go after the kids. But it's like, yeah, Barron is 16 years old, and Hunter Biden is 50. So yeah, when I say
can I bring it back to your point for a second?
Yeah.
We start talking about the Trumps and the Bidens.
No, I didn't mean to derail myself again.
No, here's the thing. I'm going to break kayfabe. I'm going to break character.
Okay.
And I'm going to say this. Without appearing regularly on MLC, Ray lives below the federal poverty line, right?
Yeah.
And like, my opinion is, dude, people make a decent living working at Walmart as greeters. Like, there are jobs you can take if you're living below the poverty line to raise yourself up. Seems to be not capable of doing that for himself right now. And so, whether or not you think, whatever you think of Ray's arrangements for the way he lives, to take money out of his pocket is wrong. You know,
Yeah.
and it's like
You
someone.
didn't have to slam Ray to get to that point, Leo.
No, I'm not. But I'm saying this is the fact of Ray's life. Without making $9,000 or $10,000 a year from MLC, he's eligible for food stamps. I mean, he's below the federal, literally below.
Right, but he hasn't made that money from MLC in quite a long time.
Right. So
So
taking $1,000 away from Ray right now is like the worst thing you could do as a person.
Yeah. So that's why it's
not
just
even a question. Like, you know, and I'm not advocating for like people to keep throwing money in tickets. And although I'm very jealous of the concert tickets and free shoes, I'm not going to lie. I also understand that like there's a helplessness about Ray, whether or not it's manufactured to some degree, but people just want to help take care of him. I think that's not the worst thing. And I think that like whatever he's doing right now to scratch out, I don't see good. Well, whatever. Anyway, so that's it.
yeah, and that's all I was trying to get to. Like I don't put the same weight on show us the 1099s versus
Right.
Ray, you're fucking off the show and I'm never paying you ever again if you go do Hackamania. I get it, he's your mortal enemy, Kevin, but that in my personal opinion, that's a fuck, you know, that's not where I draw the line, obviously, but
Yeah.
you know.
I haven't been a fan of.
If he gave me that ultimatum, I'd probably tell Kevin Brennan to go fuck himself too. Maybe.
I mean,
maybe.
Yeah, but part of the thing too is that Kevin also holds the money that he pays over Ray's head because he will have Ray on, he won't pay him, and normally like everybody says, oh, you got to wait until the 21st, and Ray will wait a week past that and still not get money. Maybe he's going to get it. You know, Kevin is on the show threatening him with it. It's a horrible way to live for Ray, and it seems pretty shitty for KB to do it.
But here's this is what I told. I mean, dude, I'm not saying anything I haven't said to Ray on his show, which is if Kevin is paying you half your income, he's your boss. You're doing a job. Your job is to appear on his show a few times a week and get screamed at. That's a job. And as the boss, KB has the right to say, these are the terms of your employment. At which point you either say, okay, I'm going to deal with it, or you say, go fuck yourself, which is what Ray did. But the thing is, like, what you don't do is then complain for 6 months that, you know, your ex-boss was really shitty to you. You go and you get a new job. And I mean, dude, right now I am testing to be a freelance writer for a website. And it's because I acknowledge that, you know, I just need to invest in my business right now, and I need to make more money. And that's all. The same reason I'm launching a YouTube channel at watchliam.com, so that I can make some money to reinvest in my business, which is the way the world is.
Yeah, but Ray is not. Ray can be a bit unique, and it's almost like it's like kicking the simple kid. You know, we used to have on the bus on my way home as a kid, there used to be a little retarded boy named Stewie, who they just picked on every single day. Stewie was on the bus, and it's like, you know, the first time I saw it, I thought, oh, that was funny, and by the second or third time, it was just horrible, and it was horrific stuff, and that was and I feel like that's what's happening with Ray, with Kevin. And it's like if Ray had done what Chad had done, putting this event together, we'd never be hearing the end of it.
Well,
we wouldn't be defending Chad. We wouldn't be defending Ray. Anyway, guys, I have to go in 5 minutes. So,
okay. Well, I just want to make my final thought then that, like, you know, Ray is a character on these shows. And this is the same conversation people had 40 years ago when Late Night with David Letterman was on, and he would have these bottom of the barrel acts on making fun of them. But they got paid, they got a lot of exposure. They made like little careers touring based on their Letterman appearances. So it's like, how much of it is Ray in on? How much of it does Ray then turn around and profit from being this guy in this circle of podcasts?
Right. I feel bad that Ray doesn't seem to be able to profit off it. That's what the part that gets me. He's got that one thing stuck in his head and he can't get past it. And it just goes over, and it's like,
Dude,
you got to let it go. And it's just, and that's what I was thinking when you said he was talking shit about you to other comics. Is like, I don't feel like he thinks, I'm just saying, this is my assumption is, I picture him thinking that you should be supporting him in his quest against the guy, and he doesn't feel like you're supporting him. And so then people that don't support him, he gets mad at, and he talks shit about them. That would be my guess.
I mean, the thing is, Ray would kill it as a barista at Starbucks, and he would get full health, dental, and
right. But it's not going to happen. That's like, look,
right.
you would kill it. Hey man, you'd probably kill it as a manager of a Lowe's, but you wouldn't be happy doing it, right?
I'm not very good with customer service.
Well, but you're not. That's why I said manager. You're dealing with the employees and stuff. You'd be good at that. But that's not the point. The point is that we would all be good at something else. But if it's not what we want to do and we're willing to do it, my concern with Ray is more like the guy breaks his leg and then he's not going to be able to work or drive, or do comedy. And then what happens?
But Shmuel, you're not his family. You're not his wife. You're not his girlfriend. Like, why
I'm not Liam, I'm not concerned like I'm losing sleep over it, but I'm just from a standpoint, like as much as you're concerned with him becoming a barista and getting health benefits, right?
Which is
I'm concerned about this other thing.
Which is not at all. My concern with Ray is entirely incidental to anything in my life. And I don't go on Ray's show. I was going on a little bit in the fall because I needed to promote a thing, and it was fun at first, and then it turned bad really quickly again.
I don't know. I mean, for a guy that is so uninteresting, there just seems to be a lot of content about Ray, and people don't let it go. Cut the guy some slack, man.
Some slack. He's 51, man.
I know it's an old Ron and Fez thing.
I don't know Ron and Fez, so.
But
look, I'm not going to the mattresses.
Ray is.
This is not a conversation.
I'm not going to mattresses with him either. I'm just saying that there is a part of life where you say, hey, what you're doing isn't something I agree with. I don't like it. I don't think it's good for you, but you're happy doing what you want to do. So I'm going to support you in that. And by support, I just mean I'm not going to shit on you. You got a lot of hate for going back to school in your 50s and learning film and what's the point and all of that. Sorry, that's what I was told for.
Making a point.
No, but it's that thing of like we have to. Let's let him live the way he wants to live.
I mean, here's the thing, that there's a difference between busting my ass to improve myself. Well, it doesn't even matter. What am I doing?
Why are we talking this? This is ridiculous.
I have no interest in defending my choices. I've made some bad, some good. What I don't do is, when I said I couldn't go on Hackamania, I couldn't Hackamania shit. When I couldn't make it out to AC, there were a couple people who were like, great, get the soup, get so-and-so to buy a plane ticket. And I was just like, I don't live like that. That's not, I don't want anyone to buy me plane tickets.
But also too, like, what was I talking about, Shmuel? I'm like, for the longest time, I didn't want to get a plane ticket. I was going to come to this event if I knew 100% it was going to happen 5 weeks ago, but it's the same thing. It's no faith in Chad. You have a different no faith. You have different.
The answer, Genta, is probably yes, but I don't care.
I don't know.
Look,
You're-
I
You're pretty
want to let
passionate for a guy who doesn't care
what about Ray?
about this whole subject, this whole conversation.
What about Ray?
About
Because
what
every
every-
podcast we're on, Liam, every podcast I see you on, Ray is the topic.
We devolve
Right?
into talking
It always
about
comes
race
up.
sometimes.
right.
I do it too. I mean, it's a fascinating thing because you want to like the guy. I mean, I do. I want to like him, but you know him differently. So I don't. But like, I want to like the guy, and like, he makes it difficult. And we have, Shmuel and I have like a similar. I think Shmuel has a better relationship with Ray. You have a different type of relationship. You've known him. You're like more peers. Shmuel and I come more from like almost a fan standpoint. So I understand like the difference he treats us. That's almost just as interesting to me too. But I get that it devolves into, but to say that like, Ray's not the subject, like it seems to be the subject a lot of the times.
But the other side of that is Ray has also engineered that for himself, and that's a way he gets by.
Well,
that's
I,
not-
look,
that's not
that's
incorrect.
Liam. That's an opinion. I don't.
I mean, he's got. He's
Well,
engineered
I don't.
himself a little bit. I mean, sure, you could maybe the lack of self promotion and the lack of stuff like that is a form of engineering. That in the sense that you're saying, like, let's just say the Franklin Sheckler situation, right? Like, the reason Franklin Sheckler does so much damage that he does is because A, Ray gives him the time of day, and B, Ray's not putting enough of his own content out to counteract anytime you type in Ray DeVito and Franklin Sheckler is the first thing that comes up. So I sort of get it, but maybe he
Rochi,
engineers it himself. I don't know.
Rochi, you are correct. Every one of these streams goes way too
I
long.
haven't checked the chat. I haven't checked the chat in a while. Sorry,
And
chat.
then I go, no, it's all good. Liam,
Don't
really,
be sorry.
thank you.
Stay away.
Liam, thank you for coming on. I like you. I like so it's fun having a conversation with someone intelligent and someone,
Excuse me.
interesting.
I'm still here. Okay.
and someone who can actually sit through an entire podcast.
Look, I'm just glad we didn't talk about the sobriety thing like you mentioned, because
That's what I wanted. I want to talk about that, but then that would, you know what? But then that doesn't go. You don't want to talk about whatever. It doesn't matter. It's all good.
it's a whole different podcast. And I did that.
I agree.
I did
I
that circuit 10 years ago. And to be honest with you, it takes a degree. This is not you. It takes a degree of being willing to be vulnerable and honest that I don't feel comfortable doing in this section of the podcast world.
I understand. I actually understand that.
If you want to know why, I
I
direct you
just know that I'm going to. I'm sorry. I just know that going to the Dabbleverse, going to any kind of these Dabbleverse things, I just see a bunch of young men who their lives seem to revolve around getting high or getting drunk or doing drugs. So,
Well, I think it's admirable that you want to help all the younger fellows of the Dabbleverse, from the drunks to Ray DeVito. I think it's no, I'm serious. I think it's a really good instinct to want to do that. But yeah, if you want, dude, you want to know why? Read Dominic's comments. Read Numero Uno Josh Denny fans' comments. It's a lot of people in this chat that I just would not ever want to open up in front of publicly.
I gotcha. I tend to just ignore them because it's trolling, right? They're just trying to get a rise out of you, and
but it's also, I mean, and again, I wanted to talk about it on your show because I never feel comfortable saying no to people. So I'll just say I've talked about it. For me, sobriety hasn't changed in the last 14 and a half years. My life has gotten immeasurably better. And, I can't argue with the results of what I've done to achieve it, but also there are people who get and stay sober without going to a program or without doing rehab. I mean, so for me to sit here and say, this is my experience, that'd be great. Don't feel like doing it in front of Dominic necessarily. But, but I will say, for anyone who's actually watching this, who's like maybe got a problem, literally the best decision I ever made, and one of the hardest. And It took me away from the things I loved for a couple years while I repaired my life and my relationships with the people in it. But ultimately, I can't argue with it. And if you really, really want to know more, you know how to reach me. Some of you have my phone number and my home address, and you have my family's information. Please don't contact them, but definitely contact me. And I'd be very, very happy to talk with you one-on-one. So that's your sobriety
That's
podcast.
gay as fuck,
Cool.
Liam.
Very
Oh,
good.
about sobriety? Okay,
Thank
yeah, sure. Yes.
Thank you.
But not about trolling. Don't call him and be like, why did you talk about Ray like that?
Mm.
Hey, why did you talk about Ray like that?
If
No, this isn't Kevin Brennan. This is number one Josh Danny fan.
dude, for real. Oh, first of all, I'd love to talk to number one Josh Denny fan. It will never happen. But second of all,
he's my he's
that's
my
your way in,
territory.
dude, if your way in is calling me at midnight and you're drunk and you want to talk about Ray, I'd give you 15 minutes to see if it leads to that. That's the truth. 424-245-5233. That's my Google Voice number, and it's open to text and calls 24 hours a day.
What is it again?
424-245-5233. No, don't put it in the chat, dude. I mean, it's for
Okay,
people.
well,
But Dave, you have my number, right? You have my number.
No, I don't. But it's okay. That's not important.
Okay.
I'll put it in private chat here.
Anybody that needs Liam's number, call Dave.
Anyone who needs my number, go to Melton's Discord. I think that's where all my information is.
The Discord. Look, we could do another hour on that, guys.
Relax, dude.
It's
You're
been a
you
really.
don't know what you're talking about. Trust me.
Liam, thank you for coming on. We went all over the place, but I enjoy these sort of rambling conversations, and I get to learn.
Invite me
things
to
that I
movie
didn't
night
know.
with you and Christian sometime, please.
We're going. Well, I don't know if you can get a ticket now. We're going Thursday.
Next time.
We're going Thursday to see Captain America.
Oh, Black Captain America. Okay, it's okay.
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you're talking about.
Just joking. It's because Han Solo's had that clip about it. All right. See you later, buddy.
All right. Cupcake is recommending The Companion.
Fight Companion?
No, the movie The Companion.
Oh, I haven't seen it.
All right. I totally need a cigar.
No more bumps. No, Rochi. Sorry. Okay, go. If you're getting off.
Oh, wait. Rochi. Rochi, call Dave's Dave's Discord and we'll put you on.
Well, no, that's not how it works. He has to call. It's got to be your bull. No, it won't work that way.
No, I'm not in Discord.
Yeah,
fuck
it won't work that way.
Oh, I can't send him a link. I don't know. There's no private chat thing here.
No.
Oh wait, I have his fucking. Hold on.
If you could send
For
Rochi a link.
I'll give you like.
It's presumptuous of you to think Rochi would even want to come on with you right now.
Well, he was on with you today, so I figure he'll go on with anybody.
Do you remember when I told you earlier? Do you remember?
Yeah, you know what? This probably isn't the best idea I've had, but Rochi likes to insult me, so
Rochi ain't coming on, dude.
We're gonna send him a link. We're gonna see what's gonna happen.
Send the link. You wanna play with fire? Send the link to numero uno Josh Denny fan.
Nah,
I didn't think so. Stupid.
No.
Don't play this game.
Hey,
with them.
I am totally happy to send numero uno Josh Denny fan the link anytime, except now because we've been doing this for 2 hours and 23 minutes, and I'm old and haven't eaten, and I need my prune juice so I can go take a bowel movement.
Yeah. Well, I don't know. I want to say this before. Let me give my plugs. Go follow me at David Serra on YouTube. Most of you guys in here are already my fans already. But I was. Oh shit! Jimmy just messaged me, so we might go live with Jimmy Kirk in just a little bit. I'll send you the link to Shmuel. Maybe. It's
all right. If you don't send it to me, I'll manage.
It's gonna be on Discord, so we'll figure it out. Jimmy just got back to me. Hello. So I might be going live with Jimmy doing DJ and Den number 126.
Wow.
So we'll find out. Go to my channel.
Right.
I love you guys.
All right,
Bye,
guys.
bye.
Good night. Thanks, everybody.